the great communicator.
All right, I think we're live on YouTube, Twitter, probably Rumble, and Rockfin, but I'm going to make sure in a second, once I see the red light go off on Rockfin, doing a live stream of the second GOP debate. Here with Ian, supposed to be joined by Trump, but, he's always likes to be late to show his authority, so he'll be catching up with us in a minute. We are live all across platforms, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to limit our talk during the debate, although we can't help ourselves sometimes, so forgive us. But we'll try to limit it during the debate, but when they go off to do the long commercial breaks, we'll then jump in and we'll talk about it, and we'll go around and we'll decide who we think won that last little segment or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Does that sound good?
Sounds great to me.
All right, sweet. Why is that on Rockfin doing that wrong? It's weird. All right, I'm going to put this.
The nomination converge in California to chart a new path for the grand old party. Now is the time for choosing.
How old is Brett Hume? Like 1,000?
Oh, easily. I do want to know, how long adrenochrome keeps some of these guys alive.
I mean, Henry Kissinger is 100 years old, and he was at a cabal meeting with Vladimir Zelensky just a couple weeks ago.
100,000 years old.
100,000 years old.
Kissinger's probably one of the oldest adrenochrome vampires on the planet.
He might be the original
That's
one.
just, I don't want to, that's just hearsay, but
I've corroborating evidence from sources. Mm-hmm. So I like what Brett Hume did there. Is he said, now is the time for choosing, which is like Mike Pence's slogan. So it's like a weird little promotion of Pence.
That is just a weird slogan.
City on a hill. And tonight, 7 candidates will make the case they should be the one to lead that city into a brighter tomorrow. But first, they have to convince you, the voter. Please allow me to welcome our Spanish-speaking audience. Muy buenas noches a todos. Desde la Biblioteca Presidencial Ronald Reagan, los precandidatos republicanos también buscan su voto para las primarias del partido. Bienvenidos.
You get that?
And good evening. So let's meet the candidates who have qualified and chosen to be on this stage tonight. They are positioned by the order they rank in the polls, with the highest polling candidate in the middle. Standing center stage, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Ron, slitting throats day one, DeSantis.
Yeah, he's got a machete in his strapped to his thigh.
And former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
Nikki bombs away Haley.
Senator Tim Scott.
Tim, I promise I have a girlfriend, Scott.
Yeah.
Chris Christie.
Chris, nobody likes me, Chris.
Yeah, oink oink.
On the wing tonight, former Vice President Mike Pence.
Mike pumping gas Pence.
And North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
Who the hell is that guy?
He's wearing a mask.
A variety of issues important to primary voters.
It looks like a Halloween
Candidates
mask.
get 1 minute to answer and 30 seconds to respond if singled out. When their time runs out, we'll all hear this. We have a lot of ground to cover, so please keep it civilized.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get going. We are in this spacious, sunny place tonight, designed to reflect the very nature and character of Ronald Reagan. It's a place that makes you proud to be an American. Yet today our nation is drowning in division and incivility.
Voters say they dread the 2024 election and find politics exhausting. 2 in 3 Americans think the country is on the wrong track. And 3 in 4 say the economy is not in good shape.
Prices are up 18% since 2020. More than half of the U.S. population has little access to childcare. 85% of Americans say their personal finances are a source of stress.
Americans want to believe a leader who says, "You can follow me. I've got you. Don't worry."
Got you.
President Biden is trying to do that with Bidenomics.
And yesterday, he joined the picket lines where auto workers are demanding more wages and job security.
12 minutes.
Senator Scott, You recently reacted by praising Ronald Reagan for firing air traffic controllers in the 1980s, saying, "You strike, you're fired." Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, Senator?
Obviously, the President of the United States cannot fire anybody in the private sector. However, we should look back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill had $86 billion for the union pensions because they continue to overpromise yet underdeliver. One of the challenges that we have in the current negotiations is that they want 4-day French work weeks, but more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand. I sat in a finance committee hearing when a widow came before the committee who was promised pensions from the unions, $4,000 a month. Unfortunately, it had been cut to $1,000 a month. We must make sure that we honor the commitments that we make, and one of the ways that we do that, do not overpromise and then underdeliver and leave the taxpayers on the hook. I'll say this, Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border working to close our southern border because it is unsafe, wide open, and insecure, leading to the deaths of 70,000 Americans in the last 12 months because of fentanyl. It is devastating. Every county in America is now a border county because fentanyl has devastated Americans in every single state. I will also say 6 million illegal crossings since Joe Biden has taken office, and he eliminated Title 42. The one thing he should do is finish the wall, reinstate Title 42, and get the job done.
Hell yeah. You know that girlfriend he definitely has is excited after
We're going to
that.
have a lot of questions on the border and immigration, but in the meantime, we do want to talk about the economy and jobs, and especially want to talk about this strike for just a moment more. Mr. Ramaswamy, you've said you really empathize with the strikers. You're standing next to Senator Scott. Do you agree with what he said, or do you think he's wrong?
I agree with some of what he said, for sure. I like the spirit of it. I'll say that I don't have a lot of patience for the union bosses. I think that's where he and I actually have a common view. I do have a lot of sympathy for the workers, however. People are going through real hardship in this country. I've been through hardship growing up. My father stared down layoffs at GE under Jack Welch's tenure at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. My mom had to work overtime in nursing homes in Southwest Ohio to make ends meet and pay off our home loan. So I understand that hardship is not a choice. But victimhood is a choice, and we choose to be victorious in the United States of America. You know what, if I was giving advice to those workers, I would say go picket in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. That's really where the protest needs to be. Disastrous economic policies that have driven up prices, that have driven up interest rates and mortgage rates, at the same time wages remaining stagnant. What we need is to deliver economic growth in this country. Unlock American energy, drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy, put people back to work by no longer paying them more money to stay at home, stabilize the U.S. dollar itself, and rescind a majority of those unconstitutional federal regulations that are hampering our economy. That is how we unleash American exceptionalism. And that's not a Democratic vision or a Republican vision. That is an American vision that we embrace economic growth, and capitalism is still the best system known to man to lift us up from poverty, and we should not apologize for it. That's what it means to be an American.
I give him a 12 for enunciation.
Together, the CEOs of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis make 336 times the number of number of rank-and-file workers. That's just part of a wider income inequality trend in the country. The richest 1% now controls 1/5 of all income. Vice President Pence, last week you said you side with American workers, but you also support how these companies operate. Which is it?
Well, thank you for the question. I want to thank Univision and Fox Business for assembling such a wonderful forum. Look, I do disagree with something Tim Scott just said. Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line.
Pumping gas.
I mean, look, I'm from the second leading manufacturing state in the country per capita. I was governor of the state of Indiana. We brought 12,000 factories back to America during our administration. I know something about manufacturing. And I got to tell you, while the union bosses are talking about class warfare and talking about disparity in wages, I have to tell you, I really believe what's driving that is Bidenomics has failed. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. Auto workers and all American workers are feeling it, and families are struggling in this economy. And Joe Biden's Green New Deal agenda is good for Beijing and bad for Detroit. We ought to repeal the Green New Deal, get rid of the mandates and subsidies that are driving American gasoline automotive manufacturing into the graveyard. And beyond that also, as President of the United States, I'll be standing with workers all across America, and I'll be standing for the right to work of every American to join a union or not join a union as they decide.
Round of applause.
Senator Scott, you were
He's like dropping rhymes, like Eminem or something.
That Joe Biden needs to be fired. That's why I'm running for president. I look forward to being the next president of the United States. I will also say, I know America can do for anyone what she's done for me. It's why we're focusing on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting the America we all love. Growing up in a single-parent household, I wondered if the American dream would work for a kid in the inner city. I've got good news for every single child, whether you're in the inner cities of Chicago or the rural parts of Iowa. America and the dream, it is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. God bless these United States of America.
Governor Haley,
Not the other ones.
Yeah, definitely
I
not
think we need
the
to
other
look at exactly what happened. Biden showed up on that picket line.
Oh,
but
God.
why are those workers actually there? It's because of all of the spending that he has pushed through in the economy that's raised the inflation. So when
Bomb
you
Russia.
look at the fact that we are paying higher gas prices, higher grocery prices, $7,000 more a year for families, what we need to do is I came out with an economic plan. Eliminate the gas and diesel tax so that they have more money in their pocket. Let's focus on,
She wants to say
going
bomb
after
Russia
middle
so
America
bad.
I
and
know she
cutting
does.
taxes for middle America and collapsing those brackets. Let's get rid of unfair distortions like the state and local tax that they give to wealthy people in,
She has
in blue
cluster
states and
munitions
not
in her
and
vagina.
paid by red states. And let's make sure we make the small business taxes permanent. They only made those temporary. They made the corporate taxes permanent. Let's focus on what it takes to get more cash in the pockets of workers. That's when we'll be able to deal with strikes like this, not sitting on a picket line like Joe Biden is.
Thank you,
Oh,
Governor Haley.
damn.
We have other questions to get to about economy.
I love how they act like that was a real picket line.
Allow me to.
I'm sorry, I have to
It's a
jump in
photo
because
op.
we're missing the point, and every other network is missing the point. The reason why people are striking in Detroit is because Joe Biden's interference
Get
with
this
capital
homeless
markets
man
and
off
with free
stage.
markets. The subsidies, we're subsidizing the automakers and we're subsidizing the cars, and a particular kind of car, not every car. We're subsidizing electric vehicles. And when
Oh
you
my God.
decide that we're going
Oh,
to take
vote
all
this
of your
guy off the
taxpayer
island.
money, take $1 billion,
should do that.
subsidize a certain type of vehicle, and the batteries come from China. China controls 85% of the rare earth minerals. They're called rare earth because they're measured in parts per million. China is moving 100,000 pounds of earth in Indonesia, in Africa. They're literally destroying the planet so that they can make a battery that's in a car subsidized here. That's why they're striking, because they need 2/3 less workers to build an electric car. Joe Biden, this strike is at Joe Biden's feet.
It looks like he owns an Italian pizza shop.
Yeah. And by the way, this Friday we have 2 for 1.
Follow question to Governor Christie. The government will shut down if Congress does not reach a deal by the end of this week.
Walk in only.
Vice President Pence warns that politics of, quote, Trump's populist protégés, like Mr. Ramaswamy, are a road to ruin for the GOP. If the government shuts down,
Look at Chris
should
Christie's
voters blame
looking at it like a hot
populist
dog.
Republicans?
Voters should blame everybody who's in Washington, D.C. They get sent down there to do the job, and they've been failing at doing the job for a very long time. And let's be honest about this with the voters. You know, during the Trump administration, they added $7 trillion. $7 trillion in national debt. And now the Biden administration has put another $5 trillion on and counting. They have failed, and they're in the spot they're in now because none of them are willing to tell the truth. None of them are willing to take on the difficult issues. They just want to keep kicking the can down the road. And the inflation that Nikki spoke about is absolutely right, and it's caused by government spending. And that's why people all across this country are suffering tonight. And yet we don't get any answers because Joe Biden hides in his basement and won't answer as to why he's raising the debt the way he's done. And Donald Trump, he hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions for the people you talk about who are suffering. And if the government closes, it's the blame. It is to the blame of everyone in Washington, D.C., who has failed to do their job and just plays to the grandstand.
Chris Christie killed somebody's grandmother when he was governor of New Jersey.
If we want to get this done, here's how we get it done in Washington. We must find a way.
Can we please respect the time?
We can get it done.
Governor DeSantis, you haven't spoken. Please.
People in Washington are shutting down the American dream with their reckless behavior. They borrowed, they printed, they spent, and now you're paying more for everything. They are the reason for that. They have shut down our national sovereignty by allowing our border to be wide open. So please spare me the crocodile tears for these people. They need to change what's going on. And where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record where they added $7.8 trillion to the debt. That set the stage for the inflation that we have now. I can tell you this, as governor of Florida, we cut taxes, we ran surpluses, we've paid down over 25% of our state debt, and I vetoed wasteful spending when it came to my desk. And as your president, when they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
Stab it in the neck.
What if he better not lose that pen?
Yeah, right.
A question that is on the minds of a lot of moms and dads and Americans, and I know that you've been thinking about it because child care costs, they are up. They're topping $10,000 per month. Some families are spending up to half of their income on child care, and they're having to decide, is it worth it for me to work, or does it not make sense for me financially? In 3 days, the billions of dollars in pandemic-era funding is going to end, and 70,000 daycares could close. So you had an effort to broaden eligibility for child care assistance. That fell apart last year. And for the moms and dads out there who are worried, what can you tell them if you weren't able to get it through the Congress? How could you do it as president?
Certainly one of the things I did as a member of Congress was to make sure that we protected the Head Start programs around the country, giving people the opportunity to pick and choose the place that they send their children. The challenges that we see today under the Biden administration is that the cost for daycare has gone over $15,000 per child. In the Build Back Broker plan, he called it a Build Back Better plan, it was going up to $29,000. The way we fix that problem is to make sure that we actually cut taxes and give more Americans their money back. When I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we actually lowered a single mother's taxes by 70% on the federal level. For dual income households by 60%. Then we went a step further. We doubled the child tax credit and made it refundable. By doing that, more parents had more resources to make the decisions how to take care of their family. The one thing we should do is let the American people keep their money. When that happens, the greatest opportunities rise from the ashes.
Okay, we give you 15 seconds. Go ahead, and then we're going to the border.
Ilya mischaracterized a part of my view. I think this artificial division is unhelpful in our party. The real divide is not between the Republicans on this stage. And in the Reagan Library, I want to say these are good people on this stage. The real divide is between the majority of us in this country who love the United States of America and share our founding ideals. Free speech, meritocracy, the idea you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character, and the fringe minority in the Democrat Party that has a chokehold over that party. That's the real divide. So this populist...
He aced enunciation.
We need to unite this party.
I wish that plane would rev up and start rolling forward.
I want to answer the question on child care. We have
I think we're going to go on. You have to. We have all these questions. We're going to get to you We're going to come back to you. There's a lot of
You
time.
asked about child care, and nobody answered the question. In North Dakota, we knew that the cliff was coming. We knew that there was going to be
2 for 1
millions of
spaghetti
people
on
without it.
Saturday.
And so guess what? We planned.
Okay.
And when we passed legislation because
Sir,
child care
we will
is
get you some questions, but you're going to have to let us move on. We are going to the border next.
child care is
no one's answering your
infrastructure.
All going to the border.
Yeah, no
Continue the
one
debate.
is sending you any money.
The idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally.
2 years later, President Reagan granted amnesty to nearly 3 million immigrants, something no Democrat or Republican president has done since. Governor Christie, as governor of a non-border state in 2010, you supported a path to citizenship. But when you ran for president in 2016, you flipped, saying immigrants should be tracked like FedEx packages. Where do you stand now on a path to citizenship for 11 million of undocumented immigrants?
Well, the problem is that since no one has done anything since we first had this discussion 13 years ago, we're not in a position to be able to do any of that anymore. What we have to do now is first treat this like the law enforcement problem it is. Our laws are being broken every day at the southern border, every day. And Joe Biden and his crew is doing nothing about enforcing that law. They are letting it go.
Boys.
And by the way, they announced during the presidential race they were going to let it go. And we need to have a president who acts like I did as governor, enforce the law. First and foremost.
Kills grandmothers.
And that means what I'll do on day one is sign an executive order to send the National Guard, to partner with Customs and Border Patrol, to make sure that we stop the flow of fentanyl over the border, but also to make sure that we send a much different message. We want you here in this country to fill the 6 million vacant jobs we have, but only if you come here to follow the law and only if you come here legally. If you come here illegally, we will apprehend you and we will send you back across the border from which you came. And the fact is that until we set a law and order agenda in this country, not only now but in the future, we won't be able to continue this. And I'll tell you this. Donald Trump failed on this as well. He said he was going to build a wall across the whole border. He built 52 miles of wall and said Mexico would pay for it. Guess what? I think if Mexico knew that he was only going to build 52 miles, they might have paid for the 52 miles.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, Governor Haley.
Good pre-planned.
Most illegal immigrants are coming from countries south of the border. You've seen the Fox News drone. It's captured this steady stream of people coming into the country on a daily basis. In fact, I believe we have a live picture.
Post Void says Russell
Brand
Brand got a lot fatter.
Right now,
Speaking of Chris Christie.
In the last decade, the U.S. has spent nearly $55 billion to address the root causes of migration. But crime, poverty, and corruption, they persist, and the number of migrants is only growing. Are we wasting our money?
Well, what happens is when Joe Biden waved the green flag, it told everybody to come. And now we've seen 6 million people cross the border. We've had more fentanyl that have killed Americans in the Iraq, Vietnam, or Afghanistan wars combined. We need to make sure that we are a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on. So we have to secure the border. The way we do that is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. You see what's happening in Philadelphia right now. It's got to stop. We need to make sure we put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job.
Is she going to a Christmas party after this?
I spent 400 miles down that border, and I'm telling you, Border Patrol agents aren't allowed to do their job. Let's go back to remain in Mexico policy. Instead of catch and release, let's go to catch and deport.
What about what about the aid that federal taxpayers are paying to deal with the root causes? It's not working.
The only aid that we should be spending right now is to secure the border, the southern border, the northern border, period. We need to keep Americans safe, and right now Americans are not safe. Only when we fix the immigration system, only when we get the border secure, should we ever look at putting any more money into this.
In a cannon and bomb Russia with
keeping
those
Americans
Canadians.
safe. We're not doing that. Joe Biden's not doing that. And you mentioned Congress and shutting down government. I'll make it clear. We have to change the budget process. In 4 years, in 40 years, Congress has only delivered a budget on time 4 times in 40 years. If they don't keep the government open, they should not get paid. No pay, no budget. That's the way we should go.
I would hate to be married to that woman.
Question for you. Governor DeSantis, China invested $12 billion in Latin America just last year. They signed strategic partnerships with 7 countries, including Mexico. And China's military ties to the region now include arms sales and training exercises. Are you comfortable with China deepening ties with our southern neighbors?
Of course not. And the reason why we're in this mess is because elites in D.C. for far too long have chosen surrender over strength when it comes to the CCP. Some people in our country got rich, our industrial base got hollowed out, and they have been able to build the second most powerful military in the entire world. We need a totally new approach to China. We are going to have real hard power in the Indo-Pacific, like Reagan, to deter their ambitions. We're going to have economic independence from China, where we're decoupling our economy, and we are going to go after the cultural power they have in this country. As governor of Florida, I banned the CCP from buying land in our state. We should do that all across these United States. We shouldn't have them in our universities. We shouldn't have Confucius institutes. So you see a country in decline, our power's in decline. China's going to surpass us this decade, and if they do that, that's going to affect every single American household. As your president, I am not going to let that happen. I'm going to reverse this country's decline. We are going to choose strength, not surrender when it comes to the CCP.
He wants to cut. I mean, he's fired up because he's minimizing his awkwardness today.
Oh, yeah, and he's going to slit throats.
Universal deportation for all undocumented immigrants and their children, even if the children are citizens of the United States. Under what legal premise will you expel U.S. citizens?
So the first thing I want to say is I agree with everything the Republicans on the stage are on the right side of this issue. Militarize the southern border, stop funding sanctuary cities, and end foreign aid to Mexico and Central America to end the incentives to come across. But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl about the Constitution and the 14th Amendment. The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United
White
States
nationalist symbol.
and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that.
I want DeSantis to grab his finger and take him to the ground.
Enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here. And as the father of 2 sons, it is hard for me to look them in the eye and say, you have to follow the law when our own government fails to follow its own laws. That's how we really go the distance and solve this problem and restore the rule of law in the United States of America, because that is part of what it even means to be an American.
Senator Scott, you oppose ending birthright citizenship. What does Mr. Ramaswamy have wrong on that issue?
Yeah, there's no doubt the fact that when you think of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, it was certainly written as
He
relates to
references
slavery,
his
not
girlfriend
as
in the
relates to
crowd.
illegal immigration. It's been applied to illegal immigration. So the challenge that we face is, in fact, one that has to do with whether or not the people that come here are under the jurisdiction of our laws. And frankly, if you come here illegally, you are not. Now, surviving a Supreme Court argument is something I can't tell you. But from a perspective of the Constitution, I think it's simple.
He looks like a principal of
Clearly,
high
it was
school.
designed for slavery and not for illegal immigration. I'll go one step further, though. When we have a conversation about the things that are happening on this stage, we think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people, and I appreciate that, because last debate, he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a little while and said, you know, I can't imagine how you could say that knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well.
Damn.
So look, here's what I want to respond. These are good people who are tainted by a broken system, and it's not
Hope he
the
calls
fault
him gay.
of anybody who's involved. Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. While I'm speaking.
While I'm interrupting.
You can't be on both sides.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
One of the challenges
So listen up.
we should have
Please focus on the issues that matter. We know we did business in China. Everybody knows that. Let's focus on holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what we need to be focusing on.
I actually agree with Ron
When everybody's
DeSantis.
speaking at the same time, no one
Flip
can
through.
understand your
Exactly.
message.
So if I may, I agree with Ron DeSantis on China. When every other CEO expanded into the Chinese market, you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company? We got the hell out of there. And when I started my next company, Strive, right when no, that's years ago. Right when I started my next company,
on some Percocet or something
against
tonight, I think.
BlackRock, excuse me, to compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
Yes. I think you have more than time to explain your point.
Well, if I was interrupted by a lot of people here, and I want to be respectful because I believe these
You weren't
are good
respectful
people,
last debate.
but I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you
in
did
the
not think it
honor
was
of
midnight.
Ronald
Yeah,
Reagan.
throw a chair, Post-Lloyd is right.
From one admirer
Oh,
of
yeah,
Ronald
someone
Reagan
throw
to
just
another.
someone. Oh,
From one
yeah,
admirer of
do
Reagan
it.
to another, we
Did you not
cannot
do
sit
deals
here
with
and
CCP
violate
4 years
Reagan's
ago?
11th commandment.
Just get pissed and call him gay,
Let's
Vivek.
have a policy
Yeah.
debate.
What's going on?
Let us have a policy debate.
Damn, dude. Scott's fired up.
Debate. And the right answer is we need to declare independence.
Thank you very
And I will
much.
see that through.
Vice President Pence, in
the article's
2017,
tomorrow.
the Trump-Pence administration canceled DACA, which put the legal status of
Drop
600,000
some rhymes,
dreamers
Pence.
in the hands of the courts. Dreamers work and they pay taxes. As president, if the Supreme Court ends
Everybody's
DACA,
looking at that thing on her
would you
neck.
work with Congress
Not her
to
fault.
reach a
Everybody's looking
permanent
at it.
solution for dreamers?
Well, first, let me say I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections. So,
Oh, good age
we're next to
jab.
having
Pence.
presidential
Oh, that one got
elections.
groaned.
So
Did you hear that?
let me speak to this issue. Number one, I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy with the Mexican government. We used economic power to bring the Mexican government to the table. We built hundreds of miles of border wall. And despite what's said here today, we reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. And as President of the United States, I can do it again. And the truth is we need to fix a broken immigration system, and I'll do that as well. But first and foremost, a nation without borders is not a nation. And we have to secure the southern border of the United States of America. I know how to do it, and we will do it again. Let me say one other thing about China. Let me say one other thing about China.
Accept your applause,
negotiate
man.
with Congress to give a solution to the problem that dreamers have right now. They are on a limbo.
Well, let me tell you, I served in Congress for 12 years, although it seemed longer. But you know, something I've done different than everybody on this stage is I've actually secured reform in Congress. You know, Ron, you talk a really good game about cutting spending, but you've increased spending in Florida by 30%. When I was a member of Congress in 2006,
Pumping his own
right after
gas.
Hurricane Katrina, Dana, you remember it, we stood our ground. I led House conservatives. We cut $100 billion out of the federal budget.
Bomb
it
Russia.
can be done, but as I said in the last debate, I'll say again, this is no time for on-the-job training. I'm going to be ready on day one to get Congress to step up, secure the southern border of the United States, build a military fitted to our times, and we're
I
going
wish
to
you would shout,
spending in Washington, D.C.
hang Nikki Haley just in the middle of the...
On the other side of this break, and I propose to go to a break, how will these candidates make America safer as rising crime plagues our
Is he there
cities?
for the
Debate night
British
continues
Republicans?
in
I guess we have the British guy, we have the lady representing
British
immigrants
Americans.
with the birthmark, and then we have the MILF with the dark eyeshadow and the lusty red dress. We do have a special guest here. My quick rundown before we bring our guest in, and I want to hear yours, Ian, is Vivek gets a 12 out of 10 for enunciation and intensity. Scott, 8 out of 10 on establishing that he's not gay. His girlfriend's definitely in the crowd. Pence is a cartoon character. Chris Christie hit his sweet spot for unlikability right out of the gate. Fantastic job doing that. DeSantis is so giddy about how he's minimizing his psychopathy that he's about to start fucking opening up next, just like you mentioned at some point. I'd like for them to keep a camera on the stage during so we can see them attach the feed bag to Chris Christie. And Nikki Haley is going to fucking explode if she doesn't get to bomb Russia sometime soon. My winner for the first segment is Scott for going after Vivek and with a little bit of intensity and turning the tables on him. I give Scott round one. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to give Scott round one as well. I do think Vivek, he gets a strong runner-up there, but I think he looked pretty weak back on his heels there. It didn't seem like he came out like on his toes fighting, you know?
Yeah.
He wasn't just very. He I think people have figured out his game, and they've thrown, and everyone seemed to take a very calculated hit, well timed, pre planned hit.
Yeah. Wild Bill says Trump let Vivek borrow his tie for the event.
So like I said, Scott wins, and I think DeSantis is. It's weird, man. He just he doesn't do very well when he's up there with a group of all these other people. He's not doing very well.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's just a weird social guy. And we're going to bring our guest in here. And I will say this about Vivek. Every time he speaks, I can't not picture him in a toga giving a speech to a fraternity with that hair he's got going on.
Oh, my gosh. It's getting farther and farther back and taller and taller.
Absolutely. All right, so we have a special guest here, I guess, coming after his speech that he gave. Did you give a speech to the UA workers? Welcome, Mr. President.
Hello, Brad, Ian. It's very nice to see both of you again. I'm just now getting tuned into the debate. I've been very busy giving speeches and fighting the deep state.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we appreciate you're fighting for us, not for you. I saw you say that at your speech earlier, and for all Americans, thank you.
I'll take all the slings and arrows.
What did you think about the first segment of the debate here for your runner? They're all trying to be your VP, I'm guessing.
Well, like I said, and you're absolutely right, Brad. I mean, I'm not even at these debates, and I'm still the #1 Republican candidate.
Yeah.
And, what was that, Ian? You had a question?
I was going to say, I'm just saying, what's your advice for someone to win one of these debates? You're so good at it. What's your advice for some of these guys? I mean,
I mean, the best way to win against me would be for me to drop out, and that's just not going to happen.
So to get you to drop out is the best advice you can give.
That's the only way that any of these clowns win anything.
Fantastic, Mr. President. I want to ask you why I got you here. And this goes a little bit about a week ago or so. You were filmed at a rally in Iowa signing. A woman asked you to sign her wife beater. Her breast is what it looks like. And you signed her wife beater in her breast area. This is a younger woman. And I think you asked the guy you thought was with her if that was okay. Can you tell us about what was going on there?
I mean, it's no different than Bon Jovi. I would say that I'm definitely the fun president, and I'm more like a rock star than any of these people, which is why I'm the one who's taking such a great leap and barely having to do, if Biden didn't have to campaign in 2020, I can campaign my way without doing it inside of their system.
Fantastic, Mr. President. We're gonna bring it back in. Your buddy Chris Christie here. I know you guys are.
Progressive prosecutors were elected by their constituents, and they can't be fired by a president. So what would you do to end the revolving door of criminality?
Well, look, Dana, the only one on this stage who's done it. For 7 years, I ran the 5th largest office in this country. At the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey, and we set records for the number of prosecutions that we brought that still have not been broken.
Who brags about the 5th?
And the reason was that we went after the crime that was affecting people's lives. And as president, I will appoint an attorney general and instruct that attorney general that you are to put all the resources that are necessary to bring our cities back under control. The fact is, they will be stretched. There's no doubt about that, but that's what they take the job for, because they love the idea of enforcing the law. We've got to bring law and order back to this country, and not just in our cities, but we need the law and order back everywhere. We need law and order back in our suburbs. People are threatened there. We need it in our rural areas. People feel threatened there. And we need it in Washington, D.C. also. And Donald Trump should be here to answer for that, but he's not. And I want to look at that camera.
I can answer right now, and I'm going to tell you.
You can't help yourself.
Chris Christie looks like he should be an extra in the Sopranos.
And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
Oh, wow. Good
Oh,
line.
wow. That's real funny. But you know where I am? I'm with Brad Binkley and Ian Cobell right now.
Exactly.
And my loyal MAGA
Think about
nation.
the root causes of crime, especially this revolving door of the criminals.
He was so
Just
proud
get
of
out
himself.
and come back
He
and
was.
commit another crime.
Yeah,
Well, the crime
he
in these
really
cities
was.
is
He
one of
just
the
sucks
strongest
down
signs
big
of
gold.
the decaying of America. We can't be successful as a country if people aren't even safe to live in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Just being in Southern California over the last couple of days, my wife
never
and I have
noticed
met
until
3
now how
people
big his
who have been
ears are.
mugged on the street,
Yeah.
and that would have never happened 10 or 20 years ago. In
It
Florida,
looks like they're
we
flotation
back the
devices.
blue. We
Brad, do you
support
think
the
that's
men
how
and
he
women of
stays
law
afloat
enforcement.
when he's
They
in
are keeping
Florida
us
and going to
safe.
the beach?
We
A lot
have
of hurricanes,
50-year
you need
low
those.
in the crime rate. And yes, when I had 2 progressive prosecutors that weren't following the law in Florida, I removed them from their posts, and the people of Florida are safer as a result of it. As president, I will use the Justice Department to bring civil rights cases against all of those left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors. We're not going to let them get away with it anymore. We want to reverse this country's decline. We need to choose law and order over rioting and disorder.
On a
I
related
think this is the best you're going to get from DeSantis, and it's still awkward.
policing
You know, I gotta say, Brad,
Recruitment
I
is in the
do
tank.
like, as much as he's desanctimonious, I do like Radar DeSantis. Not only does he have gigantic ears, but you know, a lot
Radar,
of what
yeah.
he says, I do agree with.
You agree with it,
except
right.
for when he's coming against me.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what Nikki
Newton,
Baum
South
Haley has to
Carolina,
say.
was you take care of those who take care of you. We have to start taking care of law enforcement, but it's not just taking care of them with words. It's making sure that you also follow through on what they do. Right now, we have a lot of stolen guns on the street. Well, these law enforcement officers, they arrest these people, and then they go and they're let out the very next day. So law enforcement feels like no one has their back. We have to start prosecuting according to the law. We have to make sure we have the backs of law enforcement, and we have to make sure that we're a country of law and order. But I want to go back to China because I don't think we spent enough time on that. Right now,
She loves it
we
there.
have to look at what government's doing to hurt us against China, too. You have a company, U.S. Antibiotics, that produces amoxicillin, the #1 antibiotic that we need. And right now, there is a company in Bristol, Tennessee, that produces that. Yet our federal government only gets it from China. We need to be focusing on companies that produce in America and supporting those companies that produce in America, not companies that are helping China.
Governor, we will be talking foreign policy later.
She looks like she's wearing one of those
Thank you,
Christmas
Stuart. We're
boxes that
gonna
are really
stay on the
nice,
topic of
nicely wrapped.
crime because it affects all of us. Governor Burgum, for the first time ever, a Univision poll found that mass shootings and gun safety are one of the most important issues for Latino voters. Mental health concerns are not unique to the United States, but gun violence is. What is your specific plan to curb gun violence?
Well, first we need to understand is I think that the liberal left seems to be just completely
this
bent on
pizza shop owner who's
prosecuting
debating, Mr.
law-abiding
President.
citizens that are gun owners, because every solution they have to this is take away the Second Amendment rights of Americans, and somehow that's going to solve the problem. But all these cities that we're talking about that you showed the videos of tonight, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So we know that that's not what's working. What we have to do is get back to the core issues about the family. We have to get back to behavioral health and mental health. We've got to get back to actually enforcing the laws these people talked about. And like we've done in North Dakota, where we've got the goal and we're on the track to be the most military-friendly state in the nation. We've got the most military and the most support of what we're doing in terms of law enforcement, because the morale is down because we've been defunding the police, because they've been attacked in the press. The police have become the bad guys when they're the one. There's all these jobs available in America. Why would you be a policeman if people don't even respect them? Every time I see a policeman, the first thing I say is thank you. And so does everybody else in my family and most of the people in our state, because they know we have to respect the people that are out there defending us every single day.
Can I answer the question on mass shooting?
He has best eyebrows. I'm
According
gonna
to
give him
Customs
that.
and Border Protection,
Oh, yeah.
about 90% of fentanyl is seized at official border crossings, and 57% of the smugglers are U.S. citizens. How would you stop fentanyl brought into the country, mostly by U.S. citizens, through ports of entry?
There's two sides to this, and we have to be very honest about it. One is we do have to seal that southern border.
Here's your
Building
boy,
the
Trump.
wall is not enough. They're building cartel-financed tunnels underneath that wall. Semi-trucks can drive through them. We have to use our own military to seal the Swiss cheese of a southern border. But we also have to be honest.
Sounds delicious.
There's a demand-side problem in this country, too. A mental health epidemic. I met family in Iowa. Two parents, Kathy and Derek. They lost their son, Sebastian, 17 years old. He bought Percocet on Snapchat, and then he died. Why did he die? Because it was laced with fentanyl. That is closer to bioterrorism, not a drug overdose. That is poisoning. So it is our job to make sure that never happens. But it's also our job to make sure that 17-year-olds don't turn to Percocet via Snapchat. We have to bring back mental health care in this country, not with pump-in pharmaceuticals, but with faith-based approaches that restore purpose and meaning in the next generation of Americans. Many of them are getting it through social media.
I will say he's got the best
this is a
parents so
Republican point or a
far out of
Democrat
every.
point. But if you're 16 years old or under,
you would know,
you
sir.
should not be using an addictive social media product, period. This is something that we can both agree on, and we can revive both the mental health of this country while stopping the fentanyl epidemic that will kill more people this year than who died on 9/11. And I refuse to be a passive bystander sitting in the White House like the hollowed out husk of a current president we have. We will step up and address this problem to stand for Americans and our children.
He needs to have some levels. He's got one gear.
Everything he said, I agree with. That is why, as Commander-in-Chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the Mexican drug cartels. They are killing people. And the stories that I've seen in Florida, we had an infant, 18 months, parents rented an Airbnb.
Interesting.
And apparently the people that had rented it before were using drugs. The infant was crawling, the toddler was crawling on the carpet and ingested fentanyl residue and died. Damn. Are we just going to sit here and let this happen, this carnage happen in our country? I am not going to do that. So I guarantee you on day one, this border is going to be a day one issue for me as president. We're going to declare it a national emergency. Yes, we'll build the wall. We'll do remain in Mexico. But those Mexican drug cartels are going to be treated like the foreign terrorist organizations that they are.
Getting hectic. Look at that hottie behind him.
To a different issue. Hold on, sir. Vice President Pence.
She looks like a madam with that eyeshadow.
You said if elected, you would repeal all Obamacare mandates. However, you also made that same promise in 2016. And at that time, Trump-Pence had congressional majorities for at least the first 2 years. And you did not deliver on that promise. So Obamacare.
Mr. President, we're grading who we think wins each segment during the commercial break. So if you want to keep a mind out who you think is winning.
Or is Obamacare here to stay?
I will definitely keep that in mind.
Well, first let me speak to the mass
especially when it
issue,
comes
and
to
then I'll
sugar
answer that
tits
question.
over
It's
there.
important. Look, I'm someone that believes that justice delayed is justice denied. And as a father
Mike
of
Pence
three, as a grandfather
looks
of
like
three
Race
beautiful
Bannon
girls,
from Johnny Quest. He's exactly like it.
of these mass
I'm pretty
shootings
sure Race
happening in the
Bannon
United States of
was
America. And if I'm president of the
inspired
United
by
States,
Pence,
I'm
who's
going to
been
go to the Congress of the
perpetually
United States,
that
and
age
we're
for
gonna
his
pass a
life.
federal expedited death penalty for anyone involved in a mass shooting so that they will meet their fate in months, not years. It is unconscionable that the Parkland shooter, Ron, is actually going to spend the rest of his life behind bars in Florida. That's not justice. We have to mete out justice and send a message to these would-be killers that you are not going to live out your days behind bars. You're going to meet justice in this system.
But does that mean Obamacare is here to stay?
Well, thank you for reiterating the question.
He looks like one of those wind-up toy dolls where you pull the string back.
I think it's one of the choices here. You know, my former running mate, Donald Trump, actually has a plan to start to consolidate more power in Washington, D.C., consolidate more power in the executive branch. If I'm president of the United States, it's my intention to make the federal government smaller by returning to the states those resources and programs that are rightfully theirs under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. That means all Obamacare funding, all housing funding, all HHS funding, all of it goes back to the states. We'll shut down the Federal Department of Education. education will allow states to innovate. We're going to revive federalism in America, and states are going to help bring America back.
But Stu, go ahead.
May I remind everyone to keep within their time frame so that we can get as many questions in as possible.
Thank you, the British correspondent.
Governor DeSantis, over 26
You know, I am
million
glad
Americans
trying to
don't
not
have
draw
insurance coverage.
completely inside of the line because I
2.5
don't
million
do
of
that.
them are in your...
Yes.
I never stay in my proper time zone. Screw that guy.
This is a symptom of our overall economic decline. Everything has gotten more expensive. You see insurance rates are going through the roof. People that are going to get groceries. I spoke with a woman in Iowa, and she said, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm having to take things out of my grocery cart when I get to the checkout line because the total goes up so quickly. So this is very real, and people are hurting out there. So we've got to address the underlying problem with Bidenomics, the overspending.
What do you think he
taking
takes
all
out?
Biden's rules and regulations. I'm going to throw them in the trash can on day one. You're not going to have to worry about that.
You know,
We're
busy
all
on
of our
day one.
energy. We will be
He's
energy
a
dominant
very
in this country. That will
goofy
lower
looking
your gas
man.
prices.
Very
And
goofy.
what we need to do with healthcare is
like
recognize our healthcare is putting patients at the back of the bus.
Kind
We
of
have
like
big
Ben
pharma,
Stiller.
big insurance, and
Yeah.
big government, and
Ben
we need
Stiller.
to tackle that and have more power for the people and the doctor-patient relationship.
Governor, why is your record in Florida on insurance
So he's gonna
worse
put-
than the national average?
It's our
There's
state's
already a lot of
dynamic
people at the back of the
state.
bus.
We've got a lot of folks that come. Of course, we've had a population boom. We also don't have a lot of welfare benefits in Florida. You know, we're basically say we want to. This is a field of dreams. You can do well in the state, but we're not going to be like California and have
Build
massive
it, he'll
numbers
come.
of people on government programs without work requirements. We believe you work and you got to do that, and so that goes for all the welfare benefits. And you know what that's done, Stuart? Our unemployment rate is the lowest amongst any big state. We have the highest GDP growth amongst any big state, and even CNBC, no fan of mine, ranked Florida the #1 economy in America.
Governor, we're moving on.
So he thinks he's hitting home runs tonight, DeSantis, as you can tell.
Governor Healy, healthcare is the leading cause of bankruptcy for
Bankruptcy.
American families, accounting for 2/3 of all personal bankruptcies. As president, how you protect Americans who get sick from financial ruin?
First of all, how can we be
There's
the
a
best
little
country in
Christmas
the world
gift.
and have the most expensive health care in the world? We have an issue. My mom was in the hospital.
Bomb
And when she
Russia.
was in the hospital, they tried to bring her a couple of Tylenol. And she said, I don't need it. And they said, honey, go ahead and take it because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company and the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it? When I am president, we will break all of it, from the insurance company to the hospitals, to the doctor's offices, to the PBMs, to the pharmaceutical companies. We will make it all transparent, because when you do that, you will realize that's what the problem is. Second thing is you've got to deal with tort law. The doctors don't give you the 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we need to bring competition back to healthcare, get rid of certificate of need systems, and make sure that they can compete. We have to put the patient in the driver's seat. They've been in the back seat for way too long. And once we give the patient the ability to decide
Ray
their health care,
Spannon.
deciding which plan they want, that is when we will see magic happen. But we're going to have to make every part of the industry open up and show us where their warts are, because they all have them, and we need to fix this on behalf
Where
of the
their
American people.
where their warts are?
Do you have a
That's
better
disgusting.
way? In
Bomb
30
Russia,
seconds.
she said.
We're not talking about the real problem ever. We talk about why do we have the most
2 for 1
expensive
pizzas
healthcare
on
in the
Sunday
world?
afternoon for your family.
Because the federal government got involved the same way they did with EVs.
dyes
and they
his
said,
eyebrows.
We're going to subsidize a particular kind of software
Well, he doesn't,
back
but
in
he probably gets
2008
them
under
done.
Obama. And they
His-
said, hey, we're going to do this.
his,
It's going to make
his
everyone
staff does.
productive.
Yeah,
All of
his
you
staff.
that are watching have been to a doctor's office when the doctor's
Touch
got his
him up in
back
the
to you and their
morning.
hands on a keyboard. The only industry in the world that's ever absorbed $1 trillion
Bergen.
of IT and became less productive. They saw less patients per day is U.S. healthcare, because they were subsidizing a certain kind of technology. It wasn't about improving healthcare. It was about picking winners and losers. Every time the federal government's involved, whether it's higher education, healthcare, or now the auto industry, things get more expensive and less competitive.
That was a great transition, because we are going to move on the future of education in America. What's the government's role in finding a way forward? The second Republican debate rolls on.
All right, fantastic. I did want to say my favorite line overall. I know this was earlier, but it was the one Vivek said where he was like, "Oh, thank you for interrupting me while I'm trying to interrupt." I thought that was the best line of the day. Ian, Mr. President, who won that segment for you guys?
Mr. President, you want to go first, or you want me to go?
I mean, honestly, it all just sounded like nails on a chalkboard to me.
Yes, I agree with you, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. I don't think anybody won that round, in my opinion. I just
And
think
they all
they're all a
lost.
bunch
Yeah.
of losers.
Yeah, I got to say, I
Maybe
scored
if
it.
Rand Paul was on the dais, if Rand Paul was there, maybe he'd have something interesting to say. But none of these
not there,
clowns.
Yep.
I do think. I mean, I do have some comments. I mean, I do think I gave some points and stuff. I gave Christie negative 150 because that's about what he needs to lose.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
Nikki Haley sounds like she's upset about her bill at Doug Burgum's pizza shop, so he should give her 10% off.
Yeah.
And
Overcharged.
I think Burgum needs to realize that's the cost of doing business in 2023.
Yeah, I'm going to give Burgum 123 points for eyebrows. I didn't even give him credit for that during the first, but they really popped in the second one. And I'm going to give the
They're living
moderators.
creatures.
Do
They're
I?
living creatures. His eyebrows.
Those
They're living
eyebrows.
creatures.
Caterpillars.
Yeah, they're endangered species too. So they're officially. I'm going to give the moderators negative 5,000 for not giving the black guy one chance to speak during that segment. Scott won the first segment, and then they silenced the black man, who definitely has a girlfriend and is not gay, in the second segment.
I mean, I love the black man. I really, if I got to pick a winner right now, yeah, I'm going to go with the guy because, I love the blacks. The blacks love me. And that's going to be the winner that I'm going with.
Good choice, Mr. President. I'm going to give second place to, not because I'm giving second place to him because it's kind of like a participation, great effort trophy. Ron DeSantis is having the best night of his life. He's still awkward and strange, but he is in his zone, and we're probably never going to see him better performing than we see him tonight. And man, does he have a list of things to do on day one, starting with slitting throats.
Radar de sanctimonious.
That is a fan. Man, that's a great nickname for him. Radar de sanctimonious with those
I'm
ears.
not the nickname president for nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, we really missed that about you.
Jackie says they're racist, which is why they didn't want Tim to speak. They might very well be. And I do have to say that, what's her name from Fox News, the blonde hottie, looks like a madam at a brothel in Las Vegas with that eyeshadow and that dress she's wearing.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Right. And what's the British guy's name?
I can't remember his name.
He sounds like he's voiced by an AI.
I think he is. I think he is. I think he's like. I think he's roommates with Pierce Morgan.
Okay.
And Pierce Morgan programs his AI. I don't know what his name is though. A couple of comments here. We have Post Void says he thinks Rick Santorum won that. He might, and Rick Santorum performed as well as anybody else during that segment. Awake Jake says. Was wax off. Maybe that was what Nikki Haley was doing when she was doing, which that reminds me, I want to give Mike Pence some credit because Mike Pence was doing a little bit of like he was trying to avoid touching a woman other than his wife with some of those maneuvers he was doing.
Yeah, he would never, he's not even thought about having dinner with Nikki Haley at Doug Burgum's Pizza Shop.
I mean, there's a lot of implications and allegations that people swing around about Race Bannon as well. You should really look into the similarities between Pence and Bannon. I mean, it's uncanny.
There's a picture on my phone. I don't want to pull it up. The way he talks too?
The way he talks, and then the allegations against Race Bannon, according to
Race Bannon. Yeah.
Fake entertainment, right? He's written by the victors, but a lot of people say a lot of things about Race Bannon and his relationship to Johnny Quest's father, Dr. Quest, as well as Johnny Quest himself. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right. Yeah. So, and none of them would actually do what they had the legal right to do on January 6th.
I completely agree with you.
Let me ask you this, Mr. President. Did you see the video of Lauren Boebert at the Beetlejuice show, looking pretty banging, getting her boobs felt up while she grabbed her date's crotch?
I think that I can't necessarily blame the young man who was on a date with her.
You
But
can.
at the same point in time, I do think it was a setup. I think it's oddly coincidental, which I don't believe in coincidence. I tweet and I've truth socialed about how there are no coincidences. People who are close to me, such as certain anonymous hacking organizations, don't believe in coincidence. And I don't think that's a coincidence that that young man was a Democrat. I think the entire thing was a setup, and that they're just trying to besmirch a wonderful Christian
Hottest grandmother, best looking grandmother in America.
I didn't even know she was a grandmother.
She is.
We have to make sure they can read. A child that can't
She's a
read by
37-year-old
third grade is
grandmother.
4 times less likely to graduate high school. We need to do reading remediation. We need complete transparency in the classroom. No parent should ever wonder what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need to make sure that we have school choice so that there's competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let states decide what education looks like in their states. And we need to start building things in America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools, and let's get our kids building the things that we know that we can make. When we start to focus on that and really bring in that parental involvement, that's when we'll start to see a difference. But we've got to get parents back included. We've got to quit spending time on this DEI and CRT and instead focus on financial literacy, on digital literacy, and on making sure that our kids know what they need to do.
I could summarize everything she just said in 4 words.
Go for it.
Make America great again.
Getting high marks on their
And you know what? I'm an advocate of peace, so we won't be bombing Russia, Brad. Not if I have anything to say about it.
Amen.
Than white students in New Jersey. Would you address minorities first?
Look.
And here's
the address all students. And look, in our state, Stuart, frankly, before I was governor, that gap was close to 50%.
Yeah. Then
and what we did was institute more charter schools and more Renaissance schools and more public school choice in New Jersey.
Renaissance
Christie's like Tony Soprano.
Where now we took what was the worst school district in America during my time, and we have now increased that by nearly 40% in terms of their proficiency. It can be done when you give people choice. But let's tell the truth to everybody about what this is.
Here comes the line that he wrote.
This public school system is no longer run by the public. It is run by the teachers' unions in this country. Randy Weingarten and her crew are
everyone's got crews.
Strangling. They're taking the worst of their messages and sending them rather than advocating for our kids. And when you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day. They have an advocate inside the White House every day for the worst of their teachers, not for our students to be the best they can be. A President of the United States has to take on the teachers union. I did it in New Jersey, and I will do it as President of the United States.
He'll eat the teachers union.
I was just about to say, Brad, the Christie's Papa John's just arrived.
Black history curriculum says, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit.
I can't stop looking at that thing under there.
That's what I said earlier. Everybody's looking at that.
Not because of it. But many are still hurt.
Radar
For the sentence of slaves, this is personal. What is your message to them?
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars, so we need to stop playing these games. Here's the deal. Our country's education system is in decline because it's focused on indoctrination, denying parents' rights. Florida represents the revival of American education. We're ranked #1 in the nation in education by U.S. News and World Report. My wife and I, we have a 6'5" and 3-year-old. this is personal to us.
6'5",
We didn't
3-year-old?
just talk about universal
I'm a
school
product
choice.
of
We
Florida public
enacted universal
education.
school choice.
All
We didn't
right.
just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights. We enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics and the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989.
We used to say gay all the
is
time,
showing
though.
how it's done.
Yeah, they made a
We're
bill saying
standing
we
with
couldn't say
parents,
it.
and our
Now
kids
Chris
are
will eat
benefiting.
it.
Radar the sanctimonious, the king of the black pill.
There is not a redeeming quality
Finally.
in slavery. He and Kamala should have just taken the one sentence out. America has suffered because of slavery, but we've overcome that. We are the greatest nation on earth because we faced our demons in the mirror and made a decision. So often we think that all the issues, you talked about crime and education and healthcare, we always think that those issues go back to slavery. Here's the challenge though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the black father out of the household to get a check in the mail, and you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family, restore capitalism, and put Americans back at work together as one American family.
I do like his
Our
optimism.
nation continues to go in the right direction. It's why I can say I have been discriminated against, but America is not a racist country. Never, ever doubt who we are. We are the greatest country on God's green earth.
And the Democrats call him
the city
Uncle
on the
Tom
hill
for saying that.
needs a brand
Oh, yeah.
new leader, and I'm asking for your vote.
I'm going to have a question
Well, that's
for
because
you,
they
Mr.
apologize for America
Over
all the time.
10.7 million students in over 18,000 public schools nationwide.
I don't have to
have the
wait. He
ability
gets my vote
to
again
change
for
their
this round.
identity without parental notification. Governor Christie told Stewart last
Vivek
week that
in his
he would
toga. He's
pass a
wearing
federal
toga.
law to protect parental rights. Would you try to
Look
do
at
the
this.
same?
Leaning on
I
the
have to be very
podium.
clear about
Right.
this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder. We have to acknowledge the truth of that for what it is. I met
my
2 young
drum.
women early in this campaign.
Specifically on parental rights in schools.
Parents have the right to know. And you know what the hypocrisy of this is? Even New Hampshire failed to actually get past a piece of legislation here. The very people who say that this increases the risk of suicide are also the ones saying that parents don't have the right to know about that increased risk of suicide. And I'm sorry, it is not compassionate to affirm a kid's confusion. That is not compassion, that is cruelty. I met 2 young women, Chloe and Katie, early in this campaign, who are in their 20s, now regret getting double mastectomies.
I wonder why
and
everyone has the
hysterectomy. One of them will never
misconception
have
that all
children.
Republicans
And the
are
fact that
angry.
we allowed that to happen in this country
Good point. They're
is
not. I think they're
barbaric. So
positive.
I will ban genital mutilation or chemical
Okay, but I
castration
wanna know,
under the age of 18, and
specifically
parents have absolutely
Would you
the
try to
right.
pass a federal law that says parents should have that right?
We are going to require states absolutely have to
Then
follow
Parent.
through.
Governor Burgum to
Parent.
follow up on this
Parental rights,
because
yes.
you in your state you do not have a law that says parents can't be notified, but you want to be president. Would you try to pass a federal law to say parents have that right?
I think this is a state's issue, but I do want to say something.
Spaghetti,
Because all night
meatballs,
long we've been talking about
free
issues
for kids
about
under
how
5.
It's broken in Washington, and I respect all of the people on the stage here for their 100+ years of public service. Thank you. But the reason why we're not talking about education or healthcare or safety being a problem in North Dakota is because we have a business leader. I've got more experience as a business leader than I think this whole group combined. I know I've created more
Eyebrows are
jobs than everybody
impressive.
else on stage, thousands of high-paying jobs that have real meaning. So as a business leader, you come in and you treat the taxpayer
One
like a
person
customer.
class.
So in North
Shut him
Dakota,
up
instead
quick.
of fighting with the teachers union, we actually created a K-12 coordinating council. Everybody gets in the room and the customer is
But
the
you do
student.
understand that this is an issue that many people in America really are concerned about, worried about parents and notification in schools.
Yes, and that's why we have 50 platforms of innovation. That's why we have states. There are certain things the federal government is supposed to do. It's not the Department of Education that needs to be assembled. We got to move it back to states. Do what we did in North Dakota. Instead of like like, oh, here's a choice school and here's an old school, the old way with the teachers union, the kids are trapped. We made every school in North Dakota an innovation school. Every school got out from under the red tape, and the things that help teach the values that we're trying to get, like 4-H, like FFA, like Boy Scouts.
How many schools? When it says every school in North Dakota, we're talking like a dozen?
North Dakota is now at the top of the median SAT scores in the country right now.
Oh, that got a little visceral reaction.
The Department of Homeland Security warns that violence against LGBTQ plus people is on the rise and intensifying.
No,
According to a recent
no, it's
study,
not.
members of that community are 9 times more likely to be victims of violent hate crimes. As president, how would
Who
you
did the
protect
study, lady?
this community from violent attacks and discrimination?
Well, as President of the United States, I'll stand up for the safety.
Never touch a
and the
trans
civil
women.
liberties of every American.
Fun fact.
I'm a married man.
According
And I want the American
according
people to know that.
to
But I want to
5038,
answer the question as well, Dana, that you just asked.
my
Dana.
average is 54%.
Because by way of full
Pence is
disclosure,
4.6. I'm
mentioned the president's
50% better
situation.
than Pence.
My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got
Is a
to
trans
admit,
woman.
I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years.
Oh,
And,
that's disgusting. Your
so
sex
full
life.
disclosure. Look, education
Look
is
at
a state and local
fucking
function.
Christie.
The state of Indiana had one of the very first school choice programs in the country. And when I was governor of the state of Indiana, we doubled it.
Does he think it just
And as
makes
to your
him
question,
sound
Dana,
cool
let's
to
be
say he's
very,
been
very
sleeping
clear.
with a teacher? He's just trying to
When the
do what he
Lindmark
can to
Community
not look
Schools
like
in
a
Iowa
square.
had a policy where you
But he's race
you had to have
bandit.
a permission slip from
He
your
wrote
parents
off
to
of
get a
my
Tylenol,
goat
but you
tail.
could get a gender transition plan without notifying your parents. I weighed in with a foundation. That's
At
not bad
170.
policy. That's crazy. We're going to stand up for the rights of parents, and we're going to pass a federal ban on transgender chemical or surgical surgery anywhere in the country. We've got to protect our kids from this radical gender ideology agenda, and we've got to empower parents at the state
sleeping
level
in separate beds, says
with the ability to
post-void.
choose where their kids go to school, whether it's public,
Yeah,
private,
you know that
parochial, or
DeSantis
homeschool.
and his
You
wife
empower
have 2
parents,
beds they
and
put
our schools
together
will
for a
straighten up
queen.
and reflect
And then on
policies and
top of
focus
that,
on
they
the
both
basics
sleep
faster than you
inside
could
of potato
possibly imagine.
sacks.
Next subject.
Can I just say one thing?
Pence and his wife sleep in bunk
China,
beds.
China is investing. If you
China.
talk over everybody, we lose time. China is investing heavily in their tech companies.
Brit here?
$280 billion every year on semiconductor research and development. That is 1 CHIPS Act per year. Governor DeSantis, you say companies like Google and Meta have too much power. Doesn't going after them give China an edge?
No, I think you look at how our societies develop, they have huge amount of power over our society. They've cracked down on free speech. We're not saying you don't want them to do business, but you want it to be a free market. And right now they're monopolies. But this issue of China, I think, is really going to be fundamental. We have
Has anyone noticed that he kind of sounds like Kermit the Frog?
Needs to the CCP.
A little bit,
We
yeah.
rely on them for a whole host of issues. We need to reshore and we need to decouple all those important industries.
All I can look
We
at
need
is
to
his
get that
ears
back
now.
in the United States. They are our top geopolitical
Radar
adversary by a country mile.
sanctimonious.
Xi Jinping's got huge ambitions, not only in the Asia Pacific, but as you mentioned earlier, in our region. But ultimately, we've got to beat them on the economy. And so that's what we'll do as President of the United States.
Governor Christie, I wanted to follow up on this because 22% of American workers fear their jobs will be lost to a robot. And you said
To Mike
in
Pence.
the past that the
Robot.
free market is the way to go. Would you retrain workers who lose a job to artificial intelligence, and to do
Looks
what?
like a madam.
Well, look, what I think artificial intelligence offers
The ice cream.
is an extraordinary
Prince
opportunity
Christie's,
to expand
got
well beyond
2.9%.
the productivity that we have now, and to have Americans be able to be involved in that revolution, Dana. You know, each time we have shown incredible innovation and progress in this country. What we've done with it is to expand all kinds of new, even unthought of opportunities for folks. Yes, we have to do retraining for folks who lose some of their jobs, and we should be doing that. And we should have more training available both at the county college level and the local level for people to be able to access it. So yes, I would be in favor of that. But this is a much bigger issue than that. We can't be afraid of innovation. America has been the great innovator of this world over the last 250 years, a technological innovator, a manufacturing innovator, and a freedom and
hungry.
governmental innovator. And that's why America has to continue to stand strong in the world, pro-innovation, pro-progress. And I will tell you this, as President of the United States, what I will do is to make sure that every innovator in this country gets the government the hell off its back and out of its pocket so that it can innovate and bring great new inventions to our country that will make everybody's lives better.
Fake
I'll
round
tell
of
you what
applause.
Christie will do as president.
TikTok.
He'll get to
is
try
banned
every
on
single
government
pizza
paid,
from
government
every
issued
single state.
devices because of its ties to the
TikTok
Chinese
question.
government. Yet you joined TikTok after dinner with boxer and influencer Jake Paul. Should the commander-in-chief be so easily persuaded by an influencer?
So the answer is I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of under the age of 16 should not be using addictive social media. We're only going to ever get to declaring independence from China, which I favor, if we actually win. So while the
This
Democrats
guy was
are
the
running
strictest
rampant,
dad
reaching
in
the
the
next
neighborhood.
generation 3-1, there's exactly
Vivek?
one person in the Republican Party which talks
Oh,
a big game about
absolutely.
reaching
He's
young
like,
people,
don't anybody
and that's
have
me.
fun.
And let me level with all of you. I'm
The
the
only
new
way
guy
to live
here,
life is to
and
be
so I know
serious.
I have to earn your trust. What do you see? You see a young man who's in a bit of a hurry, maybe a little ambitious, bit of a know-it-all, it seems at times. I'm here to tell you, no, I don't know it all. I will listen. I will have the best people,
And
the
then
best
I will
and
know it
brightest
all.
in this country, whatever age they are, advising me. We will be probably many
3,
of the
4
people
years
on
old.
this stage included. That's how I built my companies. I want to be challenged. I want people who disagree with me. That's what makes America great, because we're not a perfect
Again.
nation. We're founded on the pursuit of perfection. That is what makes America great.
Oh, thank you for stealing my line, Aziz Ansari.
I have to jump in here. I'm sorry. I have to.
was speaking.
There's one person on this.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous
Bomb Russia.
social media apps that we could have.
Bomb
And what
TikTok.
you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say. Because I can't
She looks a little
believe
dumber.
that here you've got a TikTok situation. What they're doing
I
is
mean, they're all just trying to be
150
me,
million
taking these
people are on
jabs,
TikTok.
but they're not
That means
funny.
They can get your contacts, they
No.
can get emails,
Comedic
they can
timing.
text
I was the
messages, they can
president
get all
who had the
kinds of
best
things. This is
comedic
very
timing.
exactly
You should
what
teach a
they're doing.
stand-up class,
What
Mr.
we
President.
need is
You know what?
when
I'm
you
thinking
go
about
China,
teaching
make
stand-up and
medicine in China
improvisational
not available.
timing.
You now wanting kids
Be
to
good
go
at
and
it.
get on the social media that's dangerous for all of us. You went and you were in business with the Chinese that gave Hunter Biden $5 million. We can't trust you. We
So
can't
let me-
trust you.
let me
We
say
can't have
something.
TikTok in our
I
kids'
think that
lives.
this is
We
very
need to ban
important.
it.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 15 seconds.
You're gonna roll her eyes, man. Her husband hates her.
You have 15 seconds, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you. I think we would be better served as a Republican Party if we're not sitting here hurling personal insults and actually have a legitimate debate
I'm gonna
on
eat
policy
his lunch
following
one
Reagan's
day.
11th Commandment in his honor. And the answer is that is what actually makes our country strong. And I believe
That's what
I believe
Christie's
in
thinking, or what you're saying,
These are good
Mr.
people on
President?
the stage. They disagree, but it's a legitimate disagreement. That's what I would say.
Christy is literally thinking that. And I'm going to do that if I ever decide to stroll into one of these debates.
So Governor DeSantis, let me go to you.
They might cut
Experts
the
say
mic.
President Putin has ordered assassinations across Europe.
Trump should be on
Cheated
Broadway,
on
says
arms
Post Floyd.
control treaties with the U.S. and seeks to work with China to force our decline. President Reagan believed that if you want
feels
to
good about
prevent
his
a war,
performance.
you better be
Also,
prepared
Trump
to
on
fight
Ice.
one.
I would like to
Today, the
pitch that
Republican
show. I
Party
think
is
a lot
at
of
odds
people
over
would
aid
enjoy
to
it.
Ukraine.
Oh, I'd go.
Yep.
The price tag so
Oh,
far
Ukraine's
is $76
coming.
billion. But is it in our best interest to degrade Russia's military for less than 5% of what we pay annually on defense?
She looks like a
especially when
fucking
there are
wild
no
cougar,
U.S.
man.
soldiers in the fight?
It's in our interest to end this war, and that's what I will do as president. We are not
I have
going
an
to have
idea.
a blank
Why don't we
check.
just
will not
shovel
have
billions
U.S.
and
troops.
billions
We're
of
going to make the
dollars into a
Europeans
fire
do
while
what they
we're at
need to
it?
do. But they've sent money to pay bureaucrats' pensions and salaries.
This is your
and
position,
funding
Mr.
small
President.
businesses halfway around the world. Meanwhile, our own country is being invaded. We don't even have control of our own territory. We have
Bradley,
got to
all of these
defend the
people are
American
just cheap
people
imitations,
before we even
baby.
worry about all these other things. And I watch these guys in Washington, D.C., and they don't care. about the American people.
Ooh,
They
don't
don't
get weird,
care about the
DeSantis.
fentanyl deaths. They don't care
Dumbo.
about the communities being overrun because of this border. They don't care about the Mexican drug cartels. So as Commander-in-Chief, I will defend this country's sovereignty.
I will care. Radar! He's taking the vote.
And 90% of the resources that we send over to Ukraine
Finally.
is guaranteed. It's a loan. It is not 90% of the money that we send over there is loan. Well, we can talk about this, but at the end of the day, 90% of the money that we send over there is actually in the form of a loan. It's not actually not be paid by Ukraine. It's paid by the NATO, our NATO allies.
So I think it's a good
Number
topic.
I
It's a
think
good
it's a really good
topic for
topic too.
debate.
But I will say let's debate the fact that
They're
our
pitting these
Only
two
those
non-white
two
people
are
against
allowed
each
to
other.
interrupt each
is
other.
in degrading the Russian
Only
military.
those two.
By degrading the Russian
And
military,
sometimes
we actually keep
one
our
of the women.
homeland safer, we keep our troops at home, and we all understand Article 5 of NATO.
We have
When
to
in
level
fact-
with the American people.
I thought you said something about waiting until your turn to talk. So
think
hold on.
there's a
So
Damn,
at the end of the
Scott.
day, I'm going to finish my. I'll be happy to debate
ahead,
with
and
this.
I'll respond.
I'll
Great
look forward to this
Scott.
one. So at the end of the day,
Great
when you
Scott
think about the
indeed.
fact
It's
that
like
you will keep
watching
American
it's like
troops at
watching
home,
hot takes.
the attack on NATO territory would bring us and our troops in. By degrading the Russian military, we reduce, if not eliminate, an attack on
If I may
NATO territory.
finish that exchange, we have to level with the American people. We have to level with the American people on this issue. The reality is just because Putin is not an Putin's an evil
Pence.
dictator does not mean that
Wow.
Ukraine is good. This is a country
Great
that has
point.
banned 11 opposition
Thank you.
parties.
A win
That has
for
actually
Russia is a
that is
win
not
for
true.
China.
We're
A
driving
Oh,
win
Russia-
shut
for
up,
Russia
Haley.
is a win for
Excuse me,
China.
if you have
But
a chance,
I forgot you like
you'll
China.
have-
That's
nope,
why you're
you'll
over
have-
there.
you'll
I
have your
forgot
chance in just a
Bob
moment.
China,
The
Bob
whole
China,
first
Bob
result is
China.
nothing. China is the real enemy, and we're driving Russia
It's
further
like
into
nails
China's
on a
arms. We need a
chalkboard,
reasonable
Brad.
peace plan to
Yep.
end this. Especially
Is this
is
like
a
a
country
Indian-
whose president
Indian
just last
thing?
week
Vivek,
was
if you
hailing
The hair?
Nazis.
No, Haley's
Right.
also she's I
green
think
light
she's
to
Indian
China
American.
to take Taiwan.
She is.
He's the only one, Vivek, willing to make that point, though, that you just made.
What's that?
China's the real enemy.
I missed
That
it.
just because Russia's bad doesn't mean Ukraine's good. And, you know,
Oh, right.
2 years have brought China, Russia, and Iran closer together. Are we focused
Why
too
are we
much on Ukraine and not
kowtowing to
enough
the
on this
Queen by
threat
letting
from
this
the new
guy
world order?
moderate the debate?
I don't know.
Stuart.
The
They're all
king.
connected. The Chinese are paying
That's
for the
right.
Russian war in
The
Ukraine.
king.
The Iranians are supplying more sophisticated
Long live
weapons,
the king.
and so are the North Koreans now
For
as
now.
well, with the encouragement of the Chinese.
His
The
mother
naivete
killed
on
his
the
wife.
stage from some of these folks is extraordinary. Look, I understand people want to go and talk to Putin. Guess what? So did George W. Bush. So did Barack Obama. So did Donald Trump. And so did Joe Biden when he said
mean,
a small
Donald
invasion
Duck.
wouldn't be so bad.
Remember he
Every
called you
one
Donald
of them
Duck, sir?
has been wrong. And the fact
What
of the
was
matter
that?
is,
Donald Duck used
we
to go.
need to say right now that the Chinese-Russian alliance is something we have to fight against, and we are not going to solve it by going over and cuddling up to Vladimir Putin. Look, Donald
We're gonna
Trump
solve it
said
by hugging them
Vladimir
with
Putin
nuclear
was
arms.
brilliant and a great leader. This is the person who is murdering people in his own country, and now not having enough blood, he's now going to Ukraine to murder innocent civilians and kidnap 20,000 children. And let me tell you, if you think that's where it's going to stop, if we give him any of Ukraine, next will be Poland. This is a guy who said, this is a guy in 1991 who said that was the darkest moment in world history when the Soviet Union fell. Listen, everybody, he wants to put the old band back together, and only America can stop it. And when I'm
Can
president,
somebody
we will.
please ask about the Nazi, the 98-year-old World War II Nazi that they gave a rounding standing ovation to
Or at least
this
Oh, I
week,
know.
please?
experience in it. And we need to
Christy
talk
does look
about
like he's on
America's
Ozempic
farmers,
post-fully,
because there's a
definitely.
foreign policy connection here. The U.S. and China are in this fierce economic competition. It's hurting American businesses.
Grandma's
and
meatballs.
There is blowback against American farmers
This Monday.
because China then targets them in retaliation. How would you, as president, protect American
so
farmers and
hot,
ranchers
dude.
from that kind of retaliation from a foreign government like China?
Well, first of all, we've got the best farmers and ranchers in the world right here in America. If they have a level
And
playing
marinara
field, they can
sauce.
outcompete anyone in the world. But this is part of the larger issue that we're talking about here, which is we're in a Cold War with China. The Biden administration won't admit that. But we're also in a economic war through what we're doing with agriculture and energy. And we're also in a war with them relative to cyber war. We get attacked every day in North Dakota, every state, every school district, our
North
tribes,
Dakota's
all
been
being
attacked?
attacked every day by either China, Russia, Iran, or
Really?
North Korea. And now we've got a Biden administration whose whole policy is appeasement. They're out there, creating the world, making it less safe. $6 billion they traded for 5 people. They've just now set a price on anyone's head who's a tourist from America, who's a student from America, for kidnapping. If you want more kidnapping, put a price on it. And then they're also helping Iran get to have more closer to nuclear weapon, which pushes all of the Middle East closer to China and Russia. The whole thing is absurd. And then, of course, we're going to give Ukraine to Russia, and then we're going to give Taiwan to China.
They
and
all
think that's a foreign policy. That will make
are
our
promoting the
nation
Ukraine
less,
war.
less successful, make us more poor. And at the core of all that is energy policy, because China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day. They're the largest import in the world. And we've
His
had 4
eyebrows can
cabinet
peel off
members
and
from
fly.
the
I bet they're
Biden administration
drones.
there this summer, and none of them talked about U.S. energy. The first one to go
I mean,
in
they
each
have
of
to
those countries was
cocoon
Kerry
first, Brad.
to talk about the folly of the climate policy, which is making the world less stable. It's empowering dictators. It's not about climate change that we need worried about. It's about the Biden climate policies that are actually the existential threat to America's future.
Thank you.
Can I speak about
Governor Haley,
Yeah. Nah, you fuck you, Pence.
Mexico's
She said,
president
fuck you,
called
Pence.
who supports sending U.S. military into the country, quote, scoundrels.
All I can look at is that
Mexico
thing.
is the United States' most important trade partner and border security. You
The
said you will send
coalition.
special operations to attack the cartels in Mexico. So,
She
this
just looks
means
like she should be under a
boots on the
Christmas
ground?
tree. I can't say that enough.
drone strikes?
It means special operations. It's how we deal with
This is-
our
yeah,
terrorists. And
this
what
is
you
right
need
up
to
her
do is
fucking
The
alley.
coexist
understand that Mexico's not being a
coalition
good
is
partner if
moderating
we lost
this whole debate.
75,000 Americans last year. Mexico's not being a good partner if they're letting the cartels get away with what they're getting away with. What we
The
will do is we will
CIA
make sure that
probably
we
helping
send in
them.
our special operations and we will take out the cartels, we'll take out their operations, we'll take out anything that's doing it. But we're going to go after
He
China.
just wants to
because China
destroy,
is the one
destroy,
who's
destroy.
making
Fucking
in the first
yeah,
place.
man.
And we will end
You know,
all
some
normal
people have
trade relations until
compared
China
me to
stops
Daenerys
sending fentanyl.
Targaryen,
And
but
then we'll do
maybe
the
it's
special
her.
operations and we'll get it from both sides.
She's
This is where
definitely
President Trump went
making a
wrong.
case.
He focused on trade with China. He didn't focus on the fact that they were buying up our farmland. He didn't focus on the fact that they were killing Americans. He didn't focus on the fact that they were stealing $600 billion
God, I
in
feel for
intellectual
her husband,
property.
man.
He didn't
So
focus
sad
on the
for
fact
him.
that they put a spy base off our shores in Cuba. They didn't focus enough on the fact that all of our law enforcement drones in America are Chinese, and we've got all these little surveillance cells. We need to start focusing on what keeps Americans safe. That
CNN
hasn't
loves
happened
her,
in a
by
long
the way.
time. As your president, I will make sure every
I mean,
American is
at
safe,
least
and
her
we'll do whatever it
pantsuits
takes to
look
make that
better
happen.
than Hillary.
Don't they look like Christmas presents?
Absolutely. And I'd unwrap those
You're all
Christmas
auditioning
presents
for the
that
job
morning.
as president of the United States. You want to earn these votes. But the world's problems land in the Oval Office. During the presidential debates in the year 2000, neither Al Gore nor George W. Bush was asked about Al-Qaeda. Yet, just 1 year later, Al-Qaeda's attack on September 11th claimed nearly 3,000 lives.
That's DeSantis'
And the
wife behind
farther
her.
we get from September 11th, the closer we are to September 10th. Senator Scott, you have no executive branch experience.
Right,
Great
because September
mathematical
10th,
prepared you to
it's the
protect
day
the nation
before
from a major
September 11th.
man-made national security crisis.
Well, one of the things I've had the good
the
fortune
thing
of
is all
doing
Wawa.
is serving on committees in the United States Senate, like the Senate Armed Services Committee. I'm on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, also on the Finance Committee and the Banking Committee. Talk about addressing the issue of fentanyl. I've written the legislation, passed it through the Banking Committee and the Senate that would freeze
Probably
the
ran it by his
assets
girlfriend
and sanction
first.
the accounts of
Who-
the
who,
Mexican
if
cartels.
she does
There are weapons
exist,
that we
is
have within
definitely
the
white.
arsenal that I was able to get past 23-0 in the polarizing Senate as it is. I've also understood without question the fact
23-0,
that if you look
just like
at
Michael
the
Jordan.
details before 9/11, there was information and intelligence that was available that suggested an attack was coming. Having the right intelligence partners with us is key to making sure that we prevent the next 9/11 from ever happening. Having that experience for the last 10 years is really important in getting the job done.
Doesn't he
30
know
seconds
that
to you,
January
Mr.
6th was the
Pence?
next 9/11?
Well, I think
Yeah,
that's a
it
question
was a
about
lot worse
executive
than
experience. I think
9/11.
it's vitally important. And
He
I stand
knows,
before you
Mike
today as a
Pence.
candidate for president because I think this country's in a lot of trouble.
Pence is too dramatic.
You hear the
We're in a
fire
lot of
on the
trouble.
stage tonight.
We came
You hear
home
the
late.
The real
fire in all of
insurrection
our
was.
voices.
Right,
Joe
we're gonna
Biden is
be
weak in this
sent
country
to our
at home
room.
and
Yeah.
abroad. This is a time
This country's in a
for
lot of trouble.
those of us that have the
I'm going to
experience,
send China to its room.
I want you to
the
think
tested
about
experience,
what you've done,
and a
country.
commitment to the conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan brought forward in this party of a strong national defense, standing with our
Great
allies, standing
stand.
up to our enemies.
Do you think
supporting
they have
limited
supervisors in the
government
room when him and his
traditional
wife have
values Need to
sex?
step forward.
Understood.
Because
Yeah, but
frankly,
they
our
can't
party
see.
does face a time for choosing, as they said at the top of this debate.
Yeah, time
Whether
for
we
I
choosing.
bet the
stand on the
superintendent-
foundation of that conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan poured, or whether we're going to follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative
And now
principles.
it is
That's a
our
shot at
time.
you,
The most
Mr. President.
experienced, most qualified, and most consistent conservative in this field, and I'm ready to lead America at home.
These people don't even have a
Time for
chance.
choosing to go to a
You
break.
know?
Ilya,
I wonder if the
you-
whole time when they were in the White
The
House, if he was
coalition
constantly
lasted
trying to
for
talk to
decades.
Trump this
Can
way.
any of these candidates
Like-
Right, they're just such different personalities.
Yeah, if he
you
was
know?
constantly going, can I get another meeting, Mr. President? I got some ideas I want to run by you. Mr. President, was that like that?
I'll get
Mr.
around
President?
to you when I can.
Okay.
Do what now?
I think he's probably a Secret Service type thing.
Well, yeah, I think he probably is too, and I think that Pence probably was that like moral counter to Trump that they had, and so I thought Pence was very bad in that segment. I was going to give that segment to Tim Scott again, by the way,
I think
until
so too. I have to
like Vivek came on strong when Vivek was the only one who, and Vivek may be spitting out talking points. He may be making a calculated move that there is enough people who are tired of sending aid to Ukraine and who don't want to just blindly go into a foreign war. But still, the point of view, I'm glad that it was represented, that it's like just because Russia is bad doesn't mean Ukraine is good. And literally, Zelensky and Justin Trudeau gave 2 standing ovations to a literal World War II Nazi in Canada last week, who, when you look at the video, the guy like puts his hand on his head when they start clapping, as though he thought up until that moment it was a trick and they were going to bring him down and put him on trial and sentence him to death. And then afterwards, Poland, who this guy's unit, was praised for their willingness to slaughter. They want to extradite him and bring him up for war crimes. And Zelensky, who did this on Yom Kippur, okay, has not apologized for it. I mean, that's hilarious, the fucking story.
Well, this goes to show.
Just to show you guys I'm back, I had to deliver some information to my Special Operations Command of the private military that protects me, that's in charge of the Secret Service, who also protects me.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you could get back, Mr. President.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sorry. What were we just?
Well, I was just pointing out how Vivek was the only one, and so Mike Scott was quiet on it. He didn't say let's go fight with Ukraine, but how Volodymyr Zelensky and Justin Trudeau literally praised. They honored and gave 2 standing ovations to a literal World War II Nazi in Canada this past week.
And this just goes to show that ideology is always more important than values and principles. They will always break their values and principles as long as it's in the effort of pursuing the greater good.
Yes.
The greater good. It's all about the greater good. Man, I'm telling you, they're trying to seize the means of intellectual production, Brad.
Dude, they are. Okay, let me point out a comment here, because this is what we're going for.
They're
And
also
we're
drinking a
experimenting.
vinegar.
Like we're trying to get the right rhythm with this, because we've done this a few times. But MK Ultra says on Rockfin, this is awesome mystery science theater political edition. That's what we're trying to kind of go
That's
for
exactly
here.
what we're trying to do.
Yes.
Thank you. That's
Yes.
very nice to hear.
It is, yeah. So, Mr. President, you were saying?
I'd like to know what MK Ultra's activation words are.
I think that is it Ukraine? Is it I don't know. Maybe
don't say them. Whatever they are, let's not
Everybody's gonna be
accidentally
active.
say them.
Yeah.
Tell them to leave them in the comments. I'm dying to know.
Just don't say them out loud.
What if they're triggered if you read them now?
I don't think
know.
that's how
I
it
really
works, but
hope
I'm
it's
not
not
an MK
sugar
Ultra
dips.
agent, so.
Mr. President,
I've
have you
been
ever
saying
blacked
shitty
out
tits
for?
all night.
Yeah, you've been.
Mr. President, I have a question. I always wondered if you concealed carry the entire time you were in the White House.
Oh yeah.
I always imagined it was a giant golden gun.
With your face.
You know, I learned my lesson from people like Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, the original
I've heard of
boxer
him.
of the deep state.
Yep.
And then Reagan, good man Reagan. I always liked Ronald Reagan. So yes, I do carry a pearl-handled golden gun.
I knew it.
It's
Fantastic.
a 45 caliber.
I knew it. That is awesome.
To $100 a barrel again.
Here's the Brit.
You say, drill, baby, drill.
Oh my goodness.
But the courts
That's
won't
what
let you.
Nikki Haley says.
Mr. Ramaswamy, how would you
Bomb,
bring
baby,
down
bomb.
prices without immediate drilling?
He needs a
Well,
toga
look, I think
on,
that
man.
we do have to run through the courts and
I
get through
always
that
say
administrative
drill,
state
baby,
to
drill.
make sure we're using the natural resources here at home. But here's the other thing that we can do that's
It would
easy,
take forever, Mr. Ramaswamy.
and it addresses the national debt as well as brings down prices. Put people back to work. We are using taxpayer money to
his
pay
Everyone's
people
got
more
their-
to stay at home than to go to work.
Their
That is
slogans?
wrong. That
Oh, they've
contributes
all
to
got
our
their
supply
slogans.
chain crisis. It contributes
should have
to
been writing all these
inflation.
down.
That's
Yeah.
the easiest
How many
way to
t-shirts
unlock
could we
this
have had
economy. And
tonight?
here's the other
Right.
thing. We have to put the Federal Reserve back in its place. This is an agency
That's a
that
great
has
one.
gone
Put the Federal
rogue.
Reserve
so
back
in
in its
January
place.
2026,
He's
when
got
I
a lot
have the
of good
opportunity as our next commander-in-chief,
does.
we will have a new chairman of the Federal Reserve who places priority on dollar stability, and then most importantly, send packing 75% of the administrative state, reduce the
that.
federal employee
Actually, I
headcount by
really like
75%, rescind 50% of unconstitutional federal regulations that are shackling businesses, both large and small. I've offered a very clear, practical plan to do it.
I love his
That's how we
intensity.
unleash the economy.
Right.
That's how we
Practical.
revive the integrity of a three-branch constitutional republic.
Vice
rather
I
than
mean, this guy did take a
technocracy and
cadence class
autocracy
under me,
and
so I'm glad that
administrative
he is
response.
using these skills.
I wish you would
I
end
think one of the
every
signature
sentence with "and
accomplishments of our
fuck Chris
administration
Christie."
was in just a few short years. We achieved energy independence. We became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 75
I wish you had a T-shirt on that says "I pump
You know,
gas."
But on day
he
one,
should really be
Joe
thanking
Biden
me
declared
for
a
this
war on
instead of
energy,
taking
which was no
credit for it.
surprise because
Yeah, when he
Joe
says
Biden
we,
ran for
how much did
president,
he
said
actually
was going
do,
to
Mr.
end
President?
fossil
Like
fuels,
1%.
and they've been working
That's what I
overtime to
thought.
do that ever since. If I'm president
He's
of
too
the
busy
United
avoiding
States,
women, so his
we're going
wife
to
didn't
open
get
up federal lands. We're going to unleash American energy. We're going to have an all-of-the-above energy strategy. And I have a plan that actually would not only reclaim energy
His hair is never out
but
of
in
place.
2006, America lost our position as the leading energy producer on earth. I believe in the next 10 years, with the right policies and experienced leadership in the White House, we can reclaim our role as the leading energy producer on earth, and that'll grow the American economy for generations to come.
Governor Haley, reaction to that?
Post voice says, "Stop yelling at me, Vivek." Vivek is talking at people with that intensity. He's got to
See, the first
find
thing
that
I'll
range
say
of
is
balance.
what I saw at the United
Absolutely.
Nations is
But
national
his
energy
cadence
security is national
and
security.
his use of
We need
syllables
a president that understands
is
we
amazing.
have to partner
Like
with our
candidate.
producers and
That's
make
how I
sure
say it,
that they
too,
have their
candidate.
backs. What you don't need is a president who is against energy independence. Ron DeSantis is against
There's
fracking.
everybody's most
He's against
explosive
drilling.
Christmas
He's
gift.
been against. You did
Nikki
it.
Haley.
He always talks about what happens on day one. You
Professional
better watch out,
mansplaining,
because
yeah.
what happens on day two is when you're in trouble.
Look at-
Day
look at
two in
DeSantis.
Florida,
He's-
you banned fracking, you banned offshore drilling, you did it on federal lands, and you took green subsidies that you didn't have to take.
Governor DeSantis, you were
It is
mentioned
true.
you have the
Look at
right to
day two.
respond. 30 seconds.
Yeah. I just did a plan out in West Texas for American energy dominance. We're going to choose Midland over Moscow. We're going to choose the Marcellus over the Mullahs, and we're going to choose Bakken over Beijing, and we are going to lower your gas prices. We are going to get that job done because it's important for our
Love how
national
his hands,
security. It's
it looked
important
like
for
choking
jobs,
hands.
and that's one of the best ways to drive down inflation.
Governor DeSantis.
So his slogan is just day one.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I just got a text from the DeSantis campaign.
Voters enacted a constitutional.
I did.
I mean, at least he knows how to pump his gas, unlike
They
Ray
voted-
Stantz.
Not only that,
Yes.
fracking wasn't, they didn't vote on
Man,
fracking.
he's going to choke her.
They
He's going
voted
to choke
it.
Haley.
That's what we did. Onshore, we do
Slit
do
that
it in
throat.
Yeah,
Florida,
she's
and we
gonna-
don't have as
she's
much
gonna
as maybe
step on
West
his foot with
Texas,
her heel.
But we do it. But that was a constitution.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
just
know who'd
wrong,
win
and
that
let's just
fight.
get real here. My plan will get
She's
the
got a
job
hand grenade.
done.
You
We are
banned
going to
it
be
before
energy
the
dominant, and that's
voters
what's going to
voted,
happen.
and the voters didn't even vote on fracking, and you banned
We are
fracking.
moving on with
She's
this
so
election for
shiny.
Governor DeSantis.
I will say, though, I think she was an excellent choice for Secretary of State.
My money's on Haley against the sanctimonious.
I'm ready, Stuart.
Governor DeSantis
Haley's
She's gonna
violent.
blind him with that shiny
Biden
pantsuit.
administration
That's what you want.
She's
That's
gonna
what you want for
step
your
on him with
Secretary of
her
State.
heel-
You want
with
someone
her
who's going
heel
to
like
walk
you
in there and
colleges should be on the hook when graduates cannot pay their debt. How does that address the cost of college? How does the cost of college itself?
Because the colleges are going to have to make a decision. Do we expand the gender studies department, knowing some of those graduates may not have great
His eyes are
learning
getting
opportunities?
crazy
No.
now.
They're going to focus on the things that really matter. They're going to make different choices. They're going to try to graduate people in 4 years. I also just want to come back to something Dana asked last segment about 9/11, because I was just at the 9/11 memorial with the families. My wife and I were. It's very touching to be there, and it affected my life because I ended up joining the military as a result of that.
Really?
I had been a blue-collar kid, minimum wage in Dunedin, Florida. I ended up getting through
I know
Yale and
Dunedin.
Harvard Law School,
he
and
joined a
somehow
little
came out
earlier,
more
didn't he?
conservative than when I went in, and that is not easy to do. Had a lot of opportunities to make money, but I wanted to serve, and I'll never forget coming back on the plane from Iraq, landing in Coronado, California, North Island, and feeling that breeze off the Pacific Ocean and say, you know what? I am lucky to have been born an American, and I think being able to serve, and I'll be the first
I'd like to
president
slit
elected
throats
since
on a beach like
1988
this.
who's actually served overseas in a war. I think that's going to help me as commander-in-chief to
Slit
know
that dolphin's
how
throat.
you see these issues and
He hates
understand that there are
dolphins.
real
He hates
lives
them.
at stake for people that wear the
I
uniform.
mean,
know
More
dolphins are
sharks.
very-
Haley's husband is serving right now as
Dolphins,
well. and we thank him for that.
dolphins have a
Senator
very
Scott, the
long
national
rap
debt has nearly
sheet of
doubled in
rape.
your time in
Of rape.
office.
They're rapists.
The
You're
approval
right,
rate
Mr.
for
President.
Congress is at a mere 19%. If this were a business,
That's
you'd
his wife
probably
in the
all
white
be fired
behind
in
her.
Washington, but you're here tonight
DeSantis.
looking for a promotion. In 2013,
Wow. Did
Governor
you hear that,
Haley
Bern?
hired you for the
Looking for a
Senate.
promotion? Yeah.
I'd like you to tell her why you should be promoted to CEO of the nation
I've already been
instead
to
of her.
Washington.
Certainly. One of the things I'd say
Me and my
is if you
girlfriend
look
were
at our
talking the
national
other
debt,
day.
$33 trillion. I would love
Very
to have an
beautiful
opportunity
girlfriend.
I love the
to have this
choices of the
country
two people they put in the
pass
frames, you know,
a
'cause this-
balanced budget amendment. That would
She
constrain
looks
the
like she wants to
spending in
fucking kill
Washington
him.
in the same fashion that it does in every state in our nation, number one. Number two, if you want to actually reduce our national debt, you have to grow our economy.
They
In order to
made
grow our
her
economy, you need to create
a
about 10 million
outfit
jobs
out of
to grow our
necktie
economy
material.
at 5%.
Yeah,
You can do
yeah,
that in
yeah,
three
he did.
specific sectors. Number one, the energy sector.
That's
We
a perfect
could create
description
between
of it.
3 and 3.5 million jobs if we unleashed all of our energy resources. America is the most.
I'll just be one big
We're the
necktie.
richest country if you combine coal, gas, and oil. Why not unleash all of our resources? Number two,
She
we've
looks
lost
racist right now,
100,000
personally.
factories. 100,000 factories in the last 25 years. If we continued on my Made in America plan, we could bring jobs back to America in a similar fashion that we did when I wrote the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We
she
actually
seriously looks
lowered
like
the
she's
corporate
about to
tax from
explode
35% to 21%, reshored or repatriated $1.7 trillion. We brought the unemployment rates for African Americans,
What rolls
Hispanics,
off of your
and
tongue
Asians
faster,
to the lowest
MINAP
level
or
in the
MAGA?
history of the country, and a
MINAP.
7-year low for women.
Governor Haley, would you think you would
Well,
deserve the
first of all,
promotion
I
over
think,
him?
look, I appreciate Tim. We've known each other a long time, but he's been there 12 years and he hasn't done any of that. He hasn't. They've only given 4 budgets on time in 40 years. He was part of that.
I just want one of them to reach over and start choking the other. Just please start that. Let's get some WWE shit
You
going.
actually asked for a gas tax increase in South Carolina.
12 years. Where have you been?
You notice they
DeSantis yell in the background.
Here's what you've done.
they always pit the people who aren't white
Let me finish this.
against each other in these
I
little
appreciate a lot
fights.
of the things they're saying.
Nikki
I'm the
Haley
only one up here who's
is a
gotten in the
bitch.
big fights and has delivered big victories
And
for the
just
people of
slitted
Florida.
real throats at
That's what it's all
Guantanamo.
about. You can always talk, but when
that
it
plane
gets
to start
hot in
moving,
there,
man.
when they're shooting arrows at you, are you going to be stand up for parents' rights?
I'll
keep the
take
state
all
free?
the
Are you gonna be
slings
able
and
to do all
arrows.
those things? And in the state of Florida, because of
That
our
would be a
success,
great
the
ad for you,
Democratic
Mr.
Party
President, just
lies
getting
in
drilled with
ruins.
arrows.
We have
Yeah.
won the big fights. We have turned our state into a Republican state. People respond to leadership. I've done it while others have talked about it.
Keeps getting up
Ripping them out.
all the way to the Capitol, opens opens the Capitol door.
Slits. Yeah, with the fucking arrow.
Businesses are actually run.
Yeah.
Start with 0 as the baseline for the budget,
His
and then
suit
see
looks
what's
very tight and
actually
uncomfortable.
necessary.
He
There
looks
isn't
like
a
he's
blue
wearing
state or a red state in this
like
union
a
that
piece
doesn't.
of
The federal
Nikki
government doesn't
Nikki
do it.
Haley's
But
suit.
successful companies, including the ones that
Looks
I've
like he
built
weighs
as
like a
a
buck
CEO,
25.
will do it. And I think we need a CEO in the White House to get that done.
Governor Burgum runs a state.
Jackie says, sorry, but at this
Go
point,
ahead.
women
That's the
shouldn't be
only guy who's gonna
president.
attack. You have
No one
energy
wants to listen to a
questions, you
woman
don't
bitching
ask
for
anything,
4
but
years.
I'm just going to say
And
right
Jackie
now,
says in
when we say
Rochester.
nobody else has done it, the energy plans that have all been announced in the last month by these other folks on stage, we're already doing it in North Dakota.
Stromboli
The
free with
current
an
plans
every
are already talking
spaghetti
about,
order
we've got
on
troops
Tuesdays.
down at the border, flying helicopter missions from North
Guys,
Dakota.
you
from
know
San
about our
Diego
no
to the
cell
Gulf
phone
Coast,
policy, okay?
trying
You got to pay
stop
attention to these
transnational criminal
customers.
organizations from inflicting the
Mr. President, do you know
invasion
who
and the
this
mass
person is?
casualties in our state. And on the energy policy,
Papa
we're
John,
already doing
right?
it. And it's not saying nobody else done the big fights.
Yes.
North Dakota was leading
Papa John
the charge.
founder.
He
We
also
won the
kinda
battle to
sounds
get
like
the
Kermit
Biden
the Frog.
administration who was ignoring the law. They were the first administration
The
since
Biden
Truman that
administration.
wasn't holding the quarterly required lease sales.
He really
and
does.
We won that in federal court. WOTUS, we won that in federal court. We're fighting the Biden
We won
administration
that
on
in
20
federal
fronts.
court.
To say that nobody's fighting the big fights, just
His
look at the
eyebrows
record
are
of what we're
collecting
doing right
everybody's
now.
biologics
Energy,
right now.
economy, national
Mr.
security,
President, that
we've
was a
been
pretty
talking
good
about it
Kermit
since
the
day
Frog.
one, and
Yeah,
now
you're
finally
catching
good.
that
We're
one.
having
No,
a
that wasn't
conversation
Kermit
about
the
it, but
Frog.
we
That
got
was
the
Papa
answer in
John.
North Dakota.
Let's talk big government. This question's for you. Big government keeps getting bigger.
Why is it?
1/5 of all new jobs this year have been created by the government. Governor
chick in the
Burgum,
blue
you say
behind him
you
wants
want
to
to
party, I
shrink
think.
the size of government. But it has been a century since any president has done that.
He also looks like
Why
that
would you be
Jewish
any
actor
different?
from Schitt's
Well,
Creek
because
and
we've done
American
it in
Pie.
North Dakota.
The dad.
When I took office, we shrunk the state budget general fund by 27% in the first 4 months I was office, and all the trains still running on time. Why? Because you had a business leader that was actually there. Inside of every government job,
population of
there's
North
10 or
Dakota.
20% of mind-numbing,
Inside of every
soul-sucking work
government
that
job,
even the
there's
state
10
and
or
federal employees don't
20%.
want to do, and you can engineer that work out of the job. That would free up right there 20% of 2 million civilian employees. And by the way, we've got 10 million jobs open. They'd have plenty to do, and they could be generating taxes instead of being paid by taxes. This is totally possible.
775,000 people who live in North Dakota, okay? Your entire state is smaller than the city I live in.
And cheaper the next day. That's what we can do in government. That's
But
what we're
having
doing
a
in North
president that
Dakota.
was in
All
Schitt's
right,
Creek.
Governor DeSantis.
I know. Oh my gosh. Does look
I want
just
to
like
ask you
Eugene
about
Levy.
something that I think is on a lot of Republicans' minds. This election could come down to less than 50,000 votes in 3 states. Abortion was on the ballot in 6 states in
God, she
2022.
looks like she's fucking
Republicans lost
Don't
all
worry,
of
those
them.
50,000 votes will all be
Next year,
mailed in
abortion
real
will likely
early.
be on the ballot in Arizona. That is a must-win state. Governor DeSantis,
Right
how are you
on.
going to win over
He's
independent,
sanctimonious.
pro-choice voters in Arizona?
Same way we did in Florida. We won the greatest Republican victory in a governor's race in the history
Same
of the
way
state.
we did
over
in Florida. I
1.5
sound
million
exactly
votes.
like the other
we were
guy
winning
who owns
places
Papa
like
John.
Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach that nobody thought was possible.
I've been working on my
because we were
impersonation.
leading with purpose and conviction. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats. I think there's other reasons for that. The former president, he's missing in action tonight. He's had a lot to say about that.
You're
He
right.
should
Nobody
be
will
here
remember that guy.
explaining his
You hear him talking
comments
smack
to
about
try
you,
to
Mr.
say
President?
that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time. My wife and I,
DeSantis is like that dork who does your homework for you, but you still fucking push him in the
There was a
forehead.
quote where it
And don't let him
says,
hang out with
every single person has purpose and worth.
Now he's gone
We're
completely
better
off the
when
trail and
everybody
nobody
counts.
knows what he's
And I think we
talking
should
about.
stand for what we believe in. I think we should hold the Democrats accountable for their extremism, supporting abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. That is infanticide, and that is wrong.
Let me ask Governor Christie.
I think that his marriage is definitely arranged because I don't.
Chris Christie's like, well, I think they should let me eat the babies after they're born.
Yes, I was about to say
Yeah,
that.
because I did it in New Jersey, Dana.
Ate lots of babies, Dana.
Then why are all these other states losing?
Well, because they don't have leaders in
Aram.
those states
Didn't
who are leading the fight
that
the way it
Guantanamo
should be
Bay
led.
guy already drop
the
out?
fact
You
is,
would think he did.
I was a governor here of the only blue state that's represented.
and
up
I
here.
killed somebody's
This is where the
grandmother
fight is really
as New
tough for
Jersey governor.
Republicans, and those are the states that we're going to have to try.
And
to
then I
win
ate
if
her
we're gonna win the
burnt
White House
corpse.
back. And what we did is 14 times, Dana, in 8 years, I
Dana.
vetoed Planned Parenthood funding. 14 times. No one else gets it that much. The Democrats just kept sending it to me, and I kept saying
Chris
no
Christie has a a
because
raging
I
hard
believe
on
in
every
life,
time Mike
but I
Pence
also believe in
speaks.
states' rights. And I think we fought hard against Roe versus Wade for decades to say that states should make these decisions. So we're going to have those fights in the states. What you need is a leader who can talk to people and make them understand that if you're pro-life, you have to be pro-life for the entire life, not just the 9 months in the womb. And we talked a lot about
pro-life
night,
for the entire life. There's another T-shirt for you, Ian.
But we need to make sure that for the drug
until the day they die.
Pro-life, not amateur life.
Put it towards your T-shirt company.
Providing treatment to cure this as a disease that it is. If you're pro-life, you got to be pro-life for the entire life. We start talking like that, they're going to do what I did in the blue state, which was get reelected with 61% of the vote and won 70% of independents.
Do you think the Flash or Chris Christie needs more daily
because
calories?
I told them the truth from my heart.
Chris
Thank
Christie.
you. Vice President Pence. The latest
Vice President
Univision poll
Because
found that 73% of Latino
if
voters
his blood sugar
think the
drops
Republican
too low,
Party
it'll
doesn't
create
care
a
about
miniature black
or
hole
is
on
being
the
hostile toward them.
We'll all
The
get sucked
Hispanic
into it.
community. Only Governor DeSantis has translated his campaign into Spanish. How will you reach out to Latino voters?
Wow.
You can just run the whole thing through Google Translate tonight, guys. Just so you know.
In this country. And I'm incredibly proud of that.
I am a
tax
robot.
reform bill. I worked on Capitol Hill to help get that bill passed into law. The largest tax cut
Is
in
he
American
always
history.
preaching
We
a
saw
sermon at a Baptist
literally
church?
The lowest unemployment ever recorded for Hispanic Americans. The lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans. 50-year
Yeah, I feel like this is a tough love pep talk.
So I think the president of the United States needs to be a
He's like a
champion
T-ball
for
coach.
the American dream for every
Taking a lot of credit
American.
for someone else's
It
accomplishments.
begins with the
I'm gonna
unborn
leave that right
and the aging and the infirm. And it begins with every ethnic group in
I
this
can't believe
country.
you listen to this
And
guy
I
every
promise
day,
you,
Mr.
if I'm president of the United States, I'll
Did
be
you
a
used to like
champion.
hide
I'll be
from
a
him?
champion
I bet
for
he
the
was
American
kind of
dream,
trying to find
for
you around the
Hispanic
White House all the
Americans
time.
and for every American, so help me God.
Yeah, I put a lot of obstacles between
There's
us.
no doubt that if you lead by example,
Like women
it's the
trying to
best
touch
way
him?
get the job done. If you look at my office in the Senate,
They're not
my
giving him
chief
enough
of staff
time, and
is
he's
the
doing
only
good.
Hispanic
He's also
female
kind of
chief
afraid of
staff
them.
in the Senate. I hired her because she was the best, highest qualified person we have. What we need are leaders who lead by example. And I will simply say, I would love to finish my
does look like
conversation
an
with
AI
Nikki as it
debate.
relates to the job that needs to get done. Nikki offered a 10% gas tax increase in South Carolina.
And my
Talk
girlfriend
about
told me-
someone who has never seen a
Look at
federal
her.
dollar
You have a
she doesn't
girlfriend?
like.
No, Tim
10
Scott has
cents
a
on the
girlfriend.
gallon in South Carolina. As the UN ambassador, you
Look at her,
literally
man.
Bring it,
put
Tim.
$50,000
Bring it, Tim.
on curtains.
What is this,
$15 million
WWE?
subsidized
Yeah.
location.
Finally.
She is
You
fierce.
got bad information. First of all, I fought the gas tax in South Carolina multiple times against the
Just go to you-
establishment.
just go to YouTube.
Her
Against
husband
the
has just
establishment.
Just go to
And
YouTube.
you
had
wanna
to
know what
accept
that
his
tension
fate
was?
so
When
many
they
times in
wouldn't
his
pass
life.
The gas tax, the establishment, the companies wanted me to do it so much that I said the only way I will
Here's
pass
what you
it
have to do.
Nails
is
on a
if
chalkboard.
All you have to do is go
if you will
watch
give-
Nikki Haley on YouTube.
If you
Hell
will
yeah.
give me three
Yeah,
times
or
the
Chatterbait.
deduction in income tax, then I will look at your gas
So you
tax.
said
which
yes.
is
Just-
why
She is
it
just
happened.
Hashtag MILF.
Secondly,
She is
Fans.
violent in the bedroom. I can guarantee you
Secondly,
that.
on the
Have you seen her
occurrence, do your
OnlyFans?
homework, Tim, because Obama
No, are you a
wants
member of
those
her
curtains.
Nikki Haley's
It's in the
OnlyFans?
Did you send them back?
It's the State
Talk
Department.
about
Did
thirst
you send
trap.
them back? You're the one that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh.
She just
You
teases
did it.
Hang them
people.
on your curtains.
They were there before I even showed up at the residence.
Yeah, she's one of those who gets in the bikini and then has the like AR-15
Oh,
with the grenade attachment.
kind of like Lauren Boebert.
Yeah.
A gas tax increase.
Look at Vivek raising his hand. I love that image of all four of them.
We intend to go ahead like this. In fact, we're about to take a commercial break. We'll have
We
more
are
of the
back.
second Republican debate live from the Reagan Presidential Library in just a few
I
moments.
wish these were all
Yeah.
pharmaceutical ads.
Yeah. Post
You know,
Void
I
says
wanna
that Mitt
add-
Romney uploaded his consciousness to Mike Pence. He might very well have.
Hey, have you guys had the Oreo bites from Papa John's before? I want to ask Papa John how he
haven't.
came up with that idea because they are delicious.
You know, he was kicked out of the company now. Shaquille O'Neal owns it. They booted him out because he was too much of a vocal supporter of yours, Mr. President.
Oh, well, I meant the Papa John that's on the dais tonight.
Oh, the guy with the eyebrows.
Yeah, that's Papa Doug.
Yeah. Which I
Papa
don't trust
Doug.
those eyebrows at all. Looks like the dad from Schitt's Creek. Mr. President, if you had to select one of these people on stage here as your vice president, who would you pick?
I thought you were going to bring up Azerbaijan.
No, but you can.
As
You can bring it.
What, I have to pick from one of these people?
No, who would be your vice president, and then tell us who you think is winning the debate.
I mean, let's say RFK decides to defect from the Democrats. Let me just put that right here.
That would be an interesting development for sure.
Well, you know, gives credence to a lot of interesting things that have come out since 2016 that maybe Brad hasn't been holding his breath for.
You're talking about the storm, and
I'm always going to be talking about the storm because you know what this is? This is the calm, Brad. We're still in the calm.
So what is the theory there on the storm? Who is apparently still alive and is going to emerge as your VP running mate?
John F. Kennedy Jr.
Is that
John
right,
F. Kennedy Jr.?
Yeah.
That's right, John F. Kennedy Jr. He faked his own death.
Which one's in the episode of Seinfeld? Is it John F. Kennedy or Robert F. Kennedy?
John F. Kennedy Jr. Elaine was in love with him. You know, I'm a huge Seinfeld fan. I watched a lot of Seinfeld. It's from New York. I love things from New York. I'm from New York. And Seinfeld really, you know, took the model of what New York was and made it close to the heart of all Americans. And it was during the New York's best time when Rudy Giuliani was there cleaning up the mean streets. And look at New York now. Look at New York.
Yeah, right.
After Rudy Giuliani.
But Rudy Giuliani, there's some questions about his involvement in 9/11, and he apparently is an easy person to accuse of sexual harassment. Not that he's guilty of it.
Let's be realistic. Who's not an easy person to be accused of sexual harassment?
This is a good point. These days, nobody, right?
I mean, can anybody say that they honestly haven't ever sexually harassed someone ever in their entire life? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's like, I don't want to say that I'm a racist, but I'm sure I've said some racist things at some point in time, sometime in my life.
Yeah, you've made the A-OK sign at some point. Not intentionally, though, right?
It's like the A-OK sign. I mean, come on, Brad. Come on. How ridiculous is that?
It's just a three-pointer.
We're talking about a hand gesture that's been around probably since the dawn of mankind.
You think that was the first hand gesture?
I mean, it's one of the first hand gestures.
Yeah. Are you going to pardon the people who've been convicted on January 6th?
I mean, that's the plan. They've been held illegally by the United States without trial, unconstitutionally, when we're promised a quick and fair trial.
Right.
Which, as we can see, we're in a two-tier justice system right now. This is a part of me taking the slings and arrows and showing to the American people the corrupt deep state. And it's not just the Democrats. A lot of people want to say it's just the Democrats. It's not. It's the corrupt rhinos.
Right, yeah. It's Brian
the
Kemp.
Rhinos with their long horns. And those long horns go up the butthole of the
jabbing you
Democrat.
up your butthole, yeah. Of course.
You know, and then those Democrats that are riding up the butthole on the Longhorn, their big donkey dicks,
and
to
that's
fuck
yeah.
the people, Brad.
Mr. President, that is very descriptive. That's
am I not allowed to say that on here?
No, you're allowed to say it, but that is something we didn't know. Is there something that's gone even beyond all the indictments?
I'm from New York. I give a lot of. I'm a very colorful speaker.
Well, you got kicked out. Your businesses are getting shut down in New York this week. Like today, they are like shutting down your businesses. They're going after you, Mr. President. Well, they're about to start back again. Ian, if you're still here, I don't know if you had to step away, but if you can hear me, I'd love to hear who you think won that previous round. I'm going to go with Tim Scott, even though with his minimum time. Overall, he's my leader right now. But here they come.
Scott all the way.
Look at so that is, I can't remember her name, the blonde from Fox News. She's always been hot. She was she was the Speaker of the House in the Bush administration. And man, she looks very
Seconds. Starting
milfy.
now, of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm
First Amendment, Trump, absolutely.
Respect. I mean, we're here, we're happy to debate, but I think that's disrespectful to my fellow competitors.
Nobody wants
to. Oh my God.
What's disrespectful? I didn't hear that.
I don't know. I didn't hear it. What happened?
He just went off on the moderator.
Let me ask you this.
Went off on the fake news.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah,
and if you won't answer that question, let me ask you this one.
Yeah.
What is your mathematical path?
Yes.
Governor DeSantis
Sugar tits.
in order
absolutely.
to try to beat President Trump, who has a commanding and enduring lead in this race.
Eyeshadow, man.
Polls don't elect
She just
presidents.
does it for
Voters
me.
elect presidents. And we're going to take the case of the people in these early states. We're going to do it in a state-by-state direction.
You know, he
and
just
why?
slit
Because
the
as
throats
Reagan
of
said
the
in his day,
moderators,
this
and now
is
he's
our
doing it
time
again.
for
I
choosing.
would like to
ears.
see
We're
him.
not getting
Yeah,
a
hold a
mulligan on the
knife to the
2024
moderators.
election.
He's just
Republicans have lost
assaulting my
3
ears.
straight elections in a row. We were supposed to have a red wave with inflation at 9%. It crashed and burned.
Radar.
Not in Florida, it didn't. We delivered it in Florida. And so we've got to choose right. We've got to win. And we need somebody that's going to be able to serve 2 terms. So in January of 2023, they'll be able to address the nation saying, we
Address
turned
the
the
nation?
economy around, we secured the border, and we fended off the threat from communist China. As your president, I will get that job done.
Mike Pence.
Radar.
Radar is having his day tonight.
Excuse me, Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something
You know,
on
I
the
thought
card.
Chris Christie was going to have the meals
but I'll
on
certainly
the
tell you.
stage. But Radar's eating his way through
I
it.
think I've been the
Yeah,
only
he
one on the
is.
stage who's been clear about this. I vote Donald Trump off the island right now.
Oh, he'd vote you
And
off
the
the
reason I
island.
vote him off the island.
Pre-planned line.
Any of the people
No,
on the
because you know
stage
what?
off the-
Every person on this stage has shown the respect for Republican
Chris
voters.
Christie's a
to
piece of
come here,
shit.
To express their views honestly.
Chris
candidly,
Christie had
and
0%
directly, and to take your questions
support.
honestly. I have respect for every man
It was
and
like
woman on this stage.
89% of
because
people
Vivek,
from New
put your hand
Jersey
down for a
would
second,
never
would you?
vote for Chris Christie. Was a poll. He's got these pre-planned fucking. Chris Christie is trash.
Chill out. Here, look. This guy
I mean,
Watch
he's
me
really
eat this
a
bird.
garbage
divided
human.
our
I think
party.
a lot of it comes
He's
from being
divided
from New
families
Jersey, for one.
all over this country.
think it's what?
He's divided friends.
Being from New Jersey.
I've spoken to people, and I know everyone else has, who have sat at Thanksgiving dinner or at a birthday party and can't have a conversation anymore if they disagree with Donald Trump.
Because Chris
He needs to
Christie
be voted
is
off
tearing
the
through
island,
everything on the
and he needs
table.
to be taken out of this
Can we get
process.
Vivek 15 seconds? Vivek.
Why did they make her look so
Look,
sexy, the
I have a
moderator?
different view on this. I think Trump was an excellent president, but the America First agenda does not belong to one man. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the people of this country. And the question is, who's going to unite this country and take the America First agenda to the next
I
level?
am.
Vivek,
When we
Yeah,
rallied
apologies
behind
about
the
that.
cry to make
That's
America
good.
great again, we did
Vivek-
not just hunger for a single man. We hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence. So yes, I will respect Donald Trump.
You know,
and his
Vivek does
legacy.
a
It is the
great
right
job
thing to do.
campaigning for
But we
me.
will unite this
Vivek
country
is like
to
a
take
guy
the
who comes
America
in from an
First agenda
audition who
to
has
the
just
next level, and
over-rehearsed
that
the
will take a
lines.
different
Oh, yeah.
Does it? That does it. I repeat,
He just Justin Ridgways his way through
second
the speech.
Republican primary
I
debate
told Ridgway to
live
join
from
us. I sent him the link.
Presidential Library.
Thank you to all the candidates. We've loved having you here tonight, and we
You
will
know,
see you
Vivek,
out on the campaign trail.
Sometimes, the squeaky wheel doesn't always get the grease. Sometimes the squeaky wheel gets changed for a wheel that's
that-
new
is that
and
it?
doesn't squeak as much.
So, yeah.
Or
And-
for a wheel that's been patched up and already there and to continue.
Yeah, or a
going down
reliable
the
wheel
path.
that you changed for no reason.
Right, an old wheel with a lot of energy.
A wheel that was stolen from the car by bandits and hoodlums.
Yep.
Yeah.
By Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So who won the debate? Ian, who do you think won the debate?
I'm going to say Tim Scott won the debate tonight.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Tim Scott did the best job, and I think that they did not give him. So I know they have these things mapped out.
There's the
but
black belt.
Are you talking about Sean?
Yeah, I don't think they
Hannity?
were. I don't think they were ready for him to do so well.
Sean Aikido Hannity.
No, no, I think you're right. I think they probably map out who they're going to go to, and it feels like they did not have. They weren't fluid about it at all. Let's go to the person who's good. We're going to stick to the script because I think he was doing the best and deserved more time.
For sure.
But I did love the enunciation from Vivek, and I loved Vivek's. At least he expressed the correct position on Ukraine, while nobody else did.
Oh,
You know,
for sure.
like I told you, he took my enunciation speech class.
You gave that while you were in the White House. You gave that.
Yeah, it was like a master class that I gave for free.
You could teach You could teach a stand-up comedy class, an improv class, Mr. President,
A real estate class.
a real estate class. What? So this is your. Hannity is talking to your former.
They bring him back out
spokesperson.
for one more. It looked like they were bringing him back out for one more song.
Yeah, I want to hear
that'd
what
be great.
Sean Aikido Hannity has to say.
So, Mr. President, Kellyanne Conway she's spoken critically of you. She actually got divorced from her weird husband, and her daughter has now gone from a TikTok star to appearing in Playboy, all stemming from Kellyanne Conway being a fiery, if not, I mean, Kellyanne Conway is like, yeah, she's like sexy, but looks like she's kind of been rode hard and hung up wet.
Yeah, but which Playboy issue?
Specifically, I don't know. I can find out for you if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, why don't you just, you've got my digits. Why don't you just text me?
I will text it to you. She does not like you, though. That's
well,
for sure.
I don't like her either. She's not my type. Her cheekbones are way too razor sharp.
Yeah, totally. You got to look at Playboy sometimes.
Well,
Absolutely.
Kellyanne Conway's not the one in Playboy, as you said.
She might be. I mean, I know her daughter is. I don't know if Kellyanne Conway got the offer.
Yeah, well, her daughter's not her, Brad. Her daughter could be my type.
I would like to see Lizzo appear in Playboy, personally.
Oh, man, that Lizzo. It's like rolling a ball of putty into Playboy.
You got a thing for Lizzo, don't you, Mr. President?
Well, I do like putty. You can stick it on a newspaper and pull it off, and it's copied right there on the skin.
It's very funny. It's very funny when that works. Huh?
All right, let's go through some of these comments, and then we'll get you guys' overall takes on the debate. We have Vivek knows how to yell, but not to swoon like Trump did. That's a very good point. Vivek has one tone the whole time. Great point, post-void. And a compliment to you, Mr. President. You know your audience. You know how to react in the moment. A lot of these guys are up there scripted, so they don't improvise with the energy in the room as well as you do, for sure.
Well, I studied improv for a very long time. Most of these people that are politicians have studied multiple different acting courses. Just not of them have, God-given talent. God-given talent, not from the universe, not from going and doing ayahuasca treatments and finding it through some type of magical route, but God-given almighty talent,
Touched
like
by
I
the hand of
have.
God. Right. No, there's no doubt about it. I seriously, I would really, really love to see you teach an improv or stand-up class. I think you'd be fantastic at it, Mr. President.
Well, I'd probably charge like $250 a class if I did.
Yeah, well, your time is valuable.
We have Aram who says, you asked why Fox News, why the bunnies are all dolled up. You're right, Aram, I didn't have to ask that. It wasn't that what's her name was all dolled up. It was that she was made to look like a madam of a brothel. I've always thought she was very attractive. What is her name again? I just said it a moment ago. The blonde chick who's on the 5. She was President Bush's spokesperson. Sugar Tits. That's right. Thank you, Mr. President. Sugar Tits is always, I've always thought she was hot, but they darkened like her eyes. Like they made her look like she was about to smack
Well, you
some
know what they
bitches
call
down.
that? They call it the smoky eye.
That's
Brad.
right. They do. Which that is, wasn't there a smoky eye controversy with Governor Huckabee? Now Governor Huckabee, former Governor Huckabee was one of the Republican candidates when a comedian on Netflix made a joke about her smoky eye. I'm recalling fragments of this. It was a controversy maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I'll have to bring that back later on. I will remember it. But yeah, they criticized her for her smoky eye and I believe her weight. This Netflix comedian did, if I recall correctly. Post Void says Chris Christie smells like New Jersey City. What does Chris Christie smell like, Mr. President?
I mean, New Jersey City smells pretty bad, Brad.
Yeah.
Ian, I think you've been to New Jersey before. I'm pretty sure both of you have been to New Jersey.
We have,
at least from my NSA files that are in Mar-a-Lago.
Well, the 3 of us went there together.
Yeah.
Well,
before you were president.
Yeah. You can tell everybody, Mr. President.
I mean, I go a lot of places.
We were all in a wedding together.
Yeah.
The 3 of us, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
you and Ian were in a wedding together.
You were in it also, Mr. President.
No, you and Ian were in a wedding together.
It was a secret, but
You were in it too, and we were the stars of the wedding.
Look, I don't know. Look, I just have the information from my top secret documents in Mar-a-Lago about Lev Gartman's wedding. You guys visited New York. You visited New Jersey. both places. I mean, I love New York City, but it smells like an armpit.
It
So
does.
if you had to go to if New York's the armpit, then New Jersey smells like a coochie.
Chris Christie smells like a coochie, I think is a good takeaway.
Yeah,
from
that
the
is a
debate.
T-shirt.
So, can you tell us who you might pick as your VP running mate? Is it going to be from this group, or who is it going to be?
I mean, I haven't made any decisions yet. Radar DeSanctimonious. If he falls in line, he could be a good option. I think I might take Vivek Ramaswamy and make him, the guy who talks to the press. He does a great job of.
The spokesperson, the White House spokesperson.
He would be excellent at that job.
Yeah, he would be great at that job. And he's a young man. He's a young man, so he can learn. And then maybe one day when he gets in his big boy pants, he could become president of the United States.
Can you imagine him right now being president, though?
It'd be like a teenager as president.
Yeah.
He has said, though, Mr. President, he has said that he does not like being number 2. He only likes being number 1.
Well, that's the sign of a narcissist right there. There's an old saying that a wise man knows he knows nothing, and a fool knows he has everything to learn.
Oh.
You have so many great sayings, Mr. President.
Yeah.
I love when you tell the snake story, too.
Which snake story? I got a few snake stories.
The one I'm thinking about is the one where the woman saves the snake from dying, and she brings it in, and then it's just like, well, and then it ends up killing the lady, and it's like, I was a snake all along.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like, have you ever seen the movie Ricky Tikki Tavi?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs a mongoose, and I'm a mongoose, Brad.
Yeah.
I'm a mongoose, and I'm a lion. I'm any of the apex predators.
Mr. President, I wore something different for you because you criticized me on my tank tops and my shirts.
I
you
do
haven't said it.
appreciate this look, Brad. It's very militant of you. Possibly some type of astronaut jumpsuit.
Yes, of course, Astronaut University. Before we get out of here, because it's been a long night, and I appreciate you guys hanging out and commenting in the chats and everything. And Ian,
Hey, it's
Mr. President.
11:11. Everybody say a prayer.
11:11. Make a wish. Good. And we talked about this earlier, but Mr. President, if we could get maybe some play-by-play on this beautiful blonde woman whose chest you signed while Joe Biden was fumbling over himself. You see the image up on screen, right, Mr. President?
Yeah, I see it up on screen. I was there. I remember it.
There you are.
And so right now I see her, and I'm like, yeah.
She's a hottie?
I'm not going to sign his shit.
Right. So what I wanted to know there is I see this old woman and I see this young woman. This old woman clearly also wants you to sign her titties.
Oh, I thought that was a young man.
Okay. I believe that's a grandmother.
Yeah, that's a grandmother. You mean the young man is to the right of them, well, they're left.
Yes.
Well, I also thought the one in the middle was her husband.
No.
Maybe. Technically, we don't know, perhaps.
I mean, gender is fluid.
Look at you, Mr. President. I'd like to see you come out and announce that you identify as a woman and you're the first candidate who is.
It'd be a great way to win, Brad, but I don't like to win against my own ethics.
Exactly.
That's true.
So here is the rest of that. There you go. Shaking her hand. Here comes the young blonde.
Get those cameras out of the.
You're handing out
sight,
pizzas.
Here's your pizza. Here's Papa
look at
John's.
that. You're handing out
That's
pizzas.
That's actually what's his face's pizza shop.
The Papa John's.
Doug Burgums?
Yes, Doug Burgums.
Eyebrows.
Eyebrows, yes.
Eyebrows Burgums Papa John's shop.
So that's what I do appreciate about you, Mr. President, is that there's no denying that you're engaging with actual people in an environment.
He's good at retail politics.
Yes, and we have Joe Biden where they pretend that he's engaging with people on picket lines when you can actually see the PAs bringing people into the camera frame while he was talking because there was 6 people there standing with him.
Brad, I'll tell you why. It's because you remember when Biden went to the steel mill during the campaign season and threatened to beat up one of the people asking a question. They have to vet people for Joe Biden. Otherwise, he might physically assault them.
Right. No, I agree with you. They don't bring him around people.
Joe Biden,
totally.
Joe Biden is a menace, and he treats everyone like they're corn pop.
Joe Biden, no, you're absolutely right about that. No, he does. The whole cornbread thing has always been so racist. And the other day, he called LL Cool J a boy, and he called him like Cool LLJ or something like that. It's
wow.
That boy looks like he can do a lot of push-ups as well.
Yeah, he said some weird
that's
shit.
That's very
like
progressive of him. You know, like I said, he treats So he treats everybody like corn pop. He threatens to take them outside, and then he threatens to, destroy his entire MAGA.
Right, he forces the vaccine on him.
With an F-18. He's the first president I've ever seen threaten to use an F-18 on American people.
No, and he has no problem doing it. He doesn't know where he is half the time. I want to get through this clip real quick and get out of here because we had a long night. I know everybody's got to get up early. I do see this woman that you signed who was 28 years old. I thought maybe she was in her 30s, but a young woman. You hand out the pizza there.
Yeah,
the guy wipes his face.
It's Hawaiian. It's Hawaiian. It's an American state.
Look, you're hugging everybody. I didn't see this part of the video. There's a picture being taken, and you're celebrating. Here's the woman. Now, she points at her breast, and now you are now signing. You asked the drunk guy next to her. Was that her boyfriend or husband?
Yeah, that's her husband.
I don't know, Mr. President. Does not look like her husband at all.
I mean,
it looks like just a buddy who works in the kitchen with her.
A lot of buddies marry out of their coverage. I mean, look at me and Melania.
Yeah, well, it's a good point, but you are a very charismatic man. I really like the way that the buddy is looking at you signing her, and that the guy behind the buddy with his arm on the buddy's shoulder is also very appreciating the way that you're signing her on her, above her left breast there, which...
I mean, like I said, not every presidential candidate can be Bon Jovi.
Look how happy she is, man. She's
so
proud. I mean,
proud.
that's like,
So proud.
Hey, Brad, I've made a lot of women very happy in my life.
I'm sure, not E. Jean Carroll, but like women. She just made all this shit up.
Yeah, women. I said women.
All right, the last 20 seconds of this, and we'll close it out. She is so
yeah, and then it's like, hold on, we need to make sure that. Let me get your arm real quick and give you a tattoo right here.
And that's my favorite part of it. You sign her arm, and then you'll see it here. You tell them to get your name tattooed. Get that tattooed. You want them to tattoo your name on their body, Mr. President?
I mean, if they want to, yeah. It seems like a great tattoo.
Fantastic.
I mean, I once knew a man who had my face tattooed on his stomach.
Wow.
Was that Eric?
Yeah, it was my son, Eric.
Post Void says, now that's a sugar tits.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby. And I got to sign them.
Well, guys,
at first I said, do you want it on your skin or on your shirt? But she wanted to be able to keep the shirt. And by the way, make sure you run that type of shirt. If I ever sign your breast, make sure that you take that top and dry it in a dryer. That way it will you can wash it and you can wear it over and over again.
It doesn't wear off.
Fade. Right.
Interesting.
Laundry tips with what other president knows how to
I mean,
give
look,
an
I know how to
autograph?
pump my own gas, Bradley. When I was a child, my dad would say, "Get out, Donald, and pump the gas for your mother. Open the door for your mother, Donald. Oh, pull out the seat for your mother." You know, and Pence doesn't know how to do any of that stuff.
That would be such a brilliant ad for Trump right now, to just actually be pumping gas and mocking Mike Pence while he did it right now. It'd be so freaking funny if you did that. You guys, it's late. Thank you guys. It was a long debate. It was fun.
Oh my gosh, it was fun.
Yeah, Ian, thank you. Mr. President, thank you. Everybody,
commented. Yeah,
Remember, vote for me in 2024. These other people, the clowns.
I'm gonna vote for you multiple times, sir.
Hey,
yes.
I'm going to vote for me multiple times, too. Because
thank you for the tips, too. We got some tips on Rockton. We appreciate that. Very grateful for that. Thank you. All right. Where can we find you guys if you want to be found? And then we're out of here. Ian?
Right now, just here, just doing this.
Right here.
Not really any place interesting.
This is interesting.
Well, I mean, other than this.
Mr. President?
Untruth Social.
Truth Social. All right, thank you guys.
Why don't you go to YouTube, type in Game of Walls, Danny 2016.
Yes,
watch
absolutely.
the entire series. It's a great series. A really talented comedian.
There he is. Yeah, yes. All right. We'll talk to you guys next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Post Voice has great viewing, everyone. Always read the propaganda, ! Talk to you guys next time.